although you did something really good, the other act of evil and, despicable acts is also me. I am both. Like, so people get it kind of confused whenever they say God is only good or God is only love. God is literally everything.
Pain is inevitable, yes. And everything requires pain. Everything requires sacrifice. Now let's take one of the most magnificent things in all of humanity, which is a child being born. When a child is being born, a mother is in excruciating pain.
People having experiences with the little gray aliens or the insectoids or the reptilians or what have you, and they don't just jump back on their spaceship and fly away. Most of them vanish out of existence. They don't need to physically fly there in order to get there, kind of thing. So I'm not saying that that's exactly what they are. I'm just man, there's a lot of comparative variables here. It makes me wonder.
If you challenge that belief system enough, you will get them to flip on you, because truth that threatens identity gets filtered out automatically. And when you attack someone's beliefs and identity, they start to get violent. Hey Conscious Man 7 family, quick question before we start. Do you love the depth of these conversations but hate when ads break the flow? I get it. Ads can feel like speed bumps on a highway, pulling you out of that deep zone. That's why we created a way for you to enjoy every episode completely ad-free while supporting the show at the same time. For just a few bucks a month on Patreon or Locals, you'll get full access to uninterrupted episodes. You'll get direct access to me so you can ask me any questions that you have, some cool other perks like early releases, and you'll also help us keep bringing you the powerful conversations that mainstream platforms won't touch. The link is in the show notes. Join us there and be part of this movement. Ever look up and see those dull, grey skies streaked with chemtrails, and you feel your energy sink? You're not imagining it. Something in you knows the sky isn't supposed to look that way. But what if you could bring back the blue? What if there was a way to clear the air inside you and above you? That's where the Chembo comes in. They create powerful orgonite, tools that generate orgone energy, the life force that helps neutralize EMFs from your mobile phone, your Wi-Fi, and even 5G. It's nature's way of restoring balance, bringing cleaner air, calmer energy, and deeper sleep. Every piece from the Chembo is handmade, from tactical tower busters to beautiful pyramids and jewelry, crafted with the precise ingredients to generate real orgone energy. And here's the best part. They've proven it. For over 10 years, they've cleared thousands of miles of chemtrails, bringing the blue back to the skies around the world. So if you're ready to take back your weather and your well-being, go to thechembo.com. Use coupon code CM7 for 10% off and experience the shift for yourself. Don't fear the chemtrails or the EMF. Be empowered with the Chembo and never feel helpless again. If you are new to this podcast, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and to share, because that helps us to be recommended in the algorithms. If you would like to support this podcast, please check out our merch store on Amazon with the brand Todd and Me. We've got some cool t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies, and sweaters. Link will be in the description of this podcast. And if you're now starting a spiritual journey, you would like to start a spiritual journey, or you're currently on a spiritual journey and you would like some help removing some fears and traumas, please hit me up on my Instagram at Adriano_246 and it will help you to get some magic mushrooms. Enjoy the show and stay tuned, because we have some more great content coming soon. What if I told you 2026 would be the year AI started taking jobs and the economy started breaking, a full 6 months before it happened? Hello friends, welcome back to the Conscious Man 7 podcast. I am your host Todd Cave, and today's episode flips the format, because for once I am not the one asking the questions. I recently sat down with Jonathon on the Metamystics podcast for a deep conversation covering Theosophy, the Gnostic Gospels, and the real identity of Yahweh. Back in 2025, I called what was coming for 2026. AI-driven job losses, a struggling economy, robots becoming part of daily life, and it landed exactly the way I said it would. In this conversation, I laid out 5 things I believe are about to collide at the same time: stock markets, food, energy, government, and something I don't think most people are ready to hear. So settle in, because by the end of this conversation, you'll see exactly what I see coming.
When truth is blurred by lies and misinformation, perception becomes reality. What will you perceive your reality to be?
Liberate your fears and walk with me.
Sit down and meditate. Connect with your soul.
Be a monster and then learn how to control it.
You gotta be willing to do the work.
So it really goes really deep in terms of words and etymology and what they mean. So this is why it is really hard to really crack the matrix, because there's so many levels and layers to it,
Welcome to Metamystics, where you don't know what you don't know. Today we bring back one of the one's favorites out there, Todd Cave. Welcome back to the show, my good brother.
Yes, mate. How are you doing? And very good to be back. It's been, I think our last show was like a year ago,
Was it?
Yeah, man.
Wow.
I think it was early, because I think I was in Barbados at the time on holiday. And so that was probably like February 2025.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it's definitely been a little minute, but look, this conversation was inspired by a certain, I don't want to call it a debate because that would just be sad. It was more of a conversation of ideas between a mystic and a Christian. And I mean, probably to nobody's surprise, the Christian just didn't have the answers for a lot of things. And see, I probably would have given him a little bit of grace, and I probably would have given him a little bit of mercy. Except for he told me that I'm going to die and go to hell for all of eternity because I didn't believe what he believed. And I said, oh, this is fresh meat. Is this what is bestowed itself upon my dinner plate right here? Let me go. So, the conversation, unfortunately didn't go in his favor. And, but look, some people will say, well, he wasn't, well enough prepared. He is not a Christian scholar. And I'll point to them and say, am I a scholar of any kind, or do I just have a phone and I know how to research what my beliefs are and not just blindly believe them? So there's a stark difference between, you got the blind leading the blind as far as religion goes. It's all about believe this, have faith in this, even though it doesn't make any kind of sense, even though there is no logical kind of sense. And even though everybody can kind of agree that the Bible is filled with allegories, but nobody can agree on what's allegory and what's truth. You ever notice that?
Absolutely. And what I find very fascinating about the religious folk is that they have a very similar mindset to the people that believe in government. They believe that the government is their friends, the vaccines work, and also believe that we have an honest system, And you see what happens is that all of these beliefs are mostly based on emotions. And what happens is that when you try to have logical and rational conversations with these people, they become irrational because their entire belief system is just based on belief, and they hardly are able to come and bring you some sort of historical facts. They're hardly able to even reference any sort of scripture or to give an argument. Is mostly based on what they've been told and how they feel based on the information that they receive. So what happens is when you try to talk to these people, because you are attacking their identity, it really crushes them. And I'm going to give you a quote now that my good friend Soldier Dan, his real name is Jahan Satura. You've had him on his show, but we call him Soldier Dan in Barbados. He has a very good quote. And I'm actually going to put this on one of my shirts. My sister's actually making the shirt now. She's designing it.
Nice.
And it goes, truth that threatens identity gets filtered out automatically. And that is absolutely true. I'm going to say it again. Truth that threatens identity gets filtered out automatically. That is his saying. And I am going to put it on one of my merch shirts, which can be found on the Todd and Me store on Amazon. And I'm going to give him one of the shirts because it is true. When you come and bring anything to someone that threatens their identity, that thing gets filtered out. They can't hear it. It's just noise to them. And that's because their limbic system gets all acted up. So what's happened is that they literally go into that fright, fight, or fear, or freeze situation. And nothing you say makes sense, right? You can bring all the logic, all the facts, you can bring books, you can bring scripture, you can bring video, my friend. It doesn't matter. They will not see it and they will not hear it. Now, the thing is that the sad reality is that most of those people can't really be saved. And it is almost, I am tempted to say that you need to just disengage with most people like that. Because unless you are very skilled at neurolinguistic programming to be able to penetrate the subconscious mind in order to sow seeds of doubt, is really difficult to get through to them because their entire identity is based on that thing that they believe. And what happens is that when you come and bring information that threatens that identity, the person goes into panic mode because their entire life, their entire way of being, the hologram that they've created for themselves is based on that idea or that belief. And when you come and smash it, dude, you are literally putting them on the verge of being lost in life. So this is why they defend those positions vehemently.
Dude, all right. So a couple of things. I think you said that wonderfully, but a couple of things that I want to come back with that. So I've been looking a lot into Theosophy with Helena Blavatsky and, you know, that kind of stuff. I've become like extremely enamored with it. Like I'm all on board with all of the theosophical and Rosicrucian type of philosophy out there. I love it. And literally the saying for Theosophy, if you look up their emblem says, so it has the Ouroboros and it has the essentially the as above, so below triangles, which kind of looks like a Star of David. It has the Ankh right there in the center. It has the, what is now known as the swastika, but predates that, you know, as far as the Big Dipper and Little Dipper in the sky. And then it has the third eye on top, right? And so it has so many interweaving symbols within this one symbol for Theosophy. But all around it, it says, there is no religion higher than the truth. And I'm like, of course, how is that evil? You know, and I've been on many of conspiracy shows, and because I started out podcasting in conspiracy, and I heard for years people just trying to drag Helena Blavatsky's name through the mud, trying to drag Theosophy through the mud. And they're saying that, oh, they're just evil occultists and basically that they eat kids and you know what I mean? Like all of the satanic stuff or whatever. And I've read a few of Blavatsky's books and I've done a great deal of research on her. I watched a documentary on her. I've been balls deep in all information about Blavatsky. There is not a single evil thing at all about her. They said that she was a fraud. That was later turned out to be fraudulent. She was never a fraud. It was proven that she was never a fraud, that the people that were calling her a fraud actually were the frauds, which got found out, I believe, in like 1986 or something like that. So it was believed for like 100 years that she was a fraud by most people who looked into Theosophy or Blavatsky in general. But then around 86, there was another guy, investigative journalist or what have you, did an investigation on the fraudulent claims on Blavatsky and found no, these people that were investigating all of her works and, you know, some of the letters that were given to her by the adepts and stuff like that, were not her and they were not fraudulent. I mean, they literally were going around saying that it was the biggest fraud scandal in human history. Like, as far as, because it was so magnificent. It was so Theosophy reached literally every corner of the earth. Like, it's still going extremely strong in India and parts of Russia, parts of Germany, and of course, even in the United States. But it's interesting because whenever you find out something that is undeniably true, like some of these teachings within Theosophy are undeniably true and they're provable. You know, it's not like you got to believe or you got to have faith or you got to believe in a sacrifice, or if you don't, you're going to hell. It's none of that bullshit. Like, it is, I don't know. I mean, not even to try and sit here and gloat too much about it, but I find a lot of truth in it. And so I think that you'll find characters who have come really close to the truth, or somewhat even figured out what the truth about reality and humanity and our soul and consciousness have come really close to it. And you see them become demonized like crazy. It is insane. Also, to go on top of what you were saying, there was, you said, like, I've always held like this notion about people who are religious, that they don't necessarily believe in religion. They are abiding by tradition. And some people will say, well, yeah, it's one and the same, but it's really not. I can observe Christmas and Thanksgiving, and I'm willingly understanding that is a tradition that we're probably going to do every year for the rest of our lives, just because it's like a human tradition at this point, right? At least in America. But if somebody told me that we can't do Christmas anymore, I'm not going to like throw a fit and, you know, like literally have my identity scattered to the winds. Like, it's not going to be anything like that. And there's actually a quote in the Bible, and this is from Mark chapter 7, where Jesus literally says, he goes, "You leave the commandment of God and hold the tradition of men." I'm like, that's exactly what we're talking about right here today. People are abiding by tradition. Most people don't know how Christmas started. Most people wouldn't be able to tell you why Easter started. Most people wouldn't be able to tell you why Thanksgiving started. It's a tradition. And similarly so, you ask a Christian what they believe, they'll tell you that they're Christian, they believe in Jesus. You ask them anything beyond the surface level, you know, facts that everybody knows, they don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like, they don't know the story of Job. They don't know the story of Lot. They don't know the story of so many different characters in the Bible, to where if you bring up a Bible verse or you ask them, name 5 of your favorite Bible verses, they wouldn't be able to do it. So it's literally the blind leading the blind, and they're just having a blind faith that is built on literally no foundation other than the brainwashing that they got whenever they were a child. You know, and that's kind of my belief on it.
Absolutely. And the thing is, that quote, right, got him in a lot of trouble. And he also said to the Jews at the time, he says, and I'm going to paraphrase because I can't remember exactly, he says, "And isn't it written in your scripture that ye are gods?" Right?
Yes.
And whenever I bring that up, Psalms 82 verse 1, people don't have a real reply that I'm satisfied with, because my whole shtick is, and I remember when I went on Sam Tripoli's show, and even when I spoke to that guy, Brandon Kroll, they all came at me telling me that what I say is blasphemous, it is new age, it is woo-woo, and I am taking the name of the Lord in vain. Now, here are a few things that with those sort of like accusations they levy at me. One, this is actually what is written. It is Psalm 82. If you go to the original Hebrew, it actually says that as God sat around the round table, or it was in the council of the gods. Now, I sidestep that and also say, well, guys, this was actually not the God that people think is God. This was actually Yahweh, which is also Enlil, which is also an Anunnaki extraterrestrial God. So what it was is that Yeshua was using their own scripture against them to actually try to inform them that, hey, you all are gods, right? Because God is in you and you are in God, which is why in the high priestly prayer in John, Yeshua actually tells them that the Father is in me and I am in him, and we are one. And I'm actually gonna, like read that there for people so that people can actually hear, because I get a lot of stick when they come and say they say, but I like to at least tell people sometimes where you can find certain things, right?
Oh, dude, there's and I don't know if you're referring to this quote, but it's essentially Jesus admitting that there is only one one God or one heavenly Father. And he openly admits that he is not that, but that they are one. And he's asking in prayer to the Father, to God, that you make them one in you as you have with me. So it's not that Jesus was God. He wasn't saying that. He was saying that he's one with God, as we are all and can be all one with God. And look, it's a fun, like Hallmark Channel kind of commercial here, or a bumper sticker to say that you're one with God. But I don't even think people understand what that means. And it drives me crazy.
Yeah, because the thing is that what people don't understand is that he was invoking his God self, because we have to go back a few steps for people to really understand. When you look at the Gnostics, right, and I'm referring to specifically to the Nag Hammadi text, it gives you a very good idea of what the construction of the universe looks like. Because they said that the universe was created from form and void. And you had something called the nomad and the pleroma. And the nomad was just the everything. But because the everything is also nothing, it had to sort of like create like a container to be able to create itself so that it could be acknowledged. Because if you are everything and there's nothing else that's existing with you, in reality, you're still nothing, because quantum physics tells us that you need to have an observer to observe the observed. So the observed becomes into existence from the observer. So the nomad emanated from, the monad emanated from itself. Yeah, you got that one wrong.
Got it switched up there.
Yeah. It created from itself the pleroma. And then the pleroma was like the thing that they basically call it the universe. The universe confirmed the existence of the monad, right? So that is basically an akin to the chicken and the egg. The chicken cannot come from anything else but the egg, and the egg can't come from anything else but the chicken. So in reality, the chicken and the egg were a pair that came together. You can't have one without the other, right? So when you actually understand the story from the Gnostics, they're saying that after the pleroma, then they created like triple powers, and then you had first mystery and second mystery and Barbello and Sophia, and then all of these were derivatives of itself, containing the essence of itself, but in a fractal form. So the fractal got smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. So the problem that most religious people don't get is all the Abrahamic faiths say this one same thing, that we were made in the image of God. Okay, good. Now, if we were made in the image of God, that means that we had to come from him. Now, they would say, well, the God breathed spirit into a body. Okay, cool. Let's run with that. So if the spirit came out of the creator of the universe, that means that that's the essence still of the creator of the universe, because the spirit is still the breath, which is the word, which is why Yeshua, he became the Christ. And when he was in his Christ form, he realized, oh, okay, there's actually more to me than just the body. My cosmic self, my spiritual self is actually one with the creator, right? And this is what people don't get. So what has happened is that they've sidestepped all the information from the Gnostics because it destroys the narrative of a man being worshipped, right?
Oh, and dude, it also brings in the idea, like if you want to get like scientific with it, there's actually a term that I heard recently, and I've heard it before, but I never really paid too much attention to it. they say that the mark of an intelligent person is someone who has the ability to have metacognition. And this is more of a newer term, but metacognition, all that means is that you are aware of your thoughts and you have the ability to separate yourself from the thoughts that you're having, that you have the ability to observe your own thoughts objectively, like that you are not your thoughts. The idea that you're able to go outside of that is the mark of an intelligent person, because now your emotions and your feelings and, all your triggers, you understand that those are just your thoughts. And if you can separate yourself from your thoughts, then are you ever going to get triggered? Are you ever going to be sad? Or are you ever, you know what I mean? Like, these are just information forms that are coming in through the pineal gland or whatever kind of receiver that we have. And, I believe that is absolutely the mark of an intelligent person. And the best way to be able to do that is through meditation. Like, of course, you can go the psychedelic route or the past life regression route or what have you, but meditation is the way. Like, if you can get deep enough in meditation, usually doesn't take very long, 10, 15 minutes for me, that you stop identifying as the thoughts, because once you can do that, you literally transcend your old way of thinking. And by transcending your old way of thinking, let me tell you another fun word for that one, and that is repent. To repent. The Greek translation of repent it's called metanoia. And through metanoia, whenever you go back to the etymology of what metanoia means, it literally means to change your mind. Like, that's all it means, is just to change your mind. Like, it makes the most sense that if you're somebody who was very dogmatic about your beliefs, which is exactly the people that Jesus was coming after, were the people that were extremely dogmatic. Like, he had a big bone to pick with the Pharisees, right? And that's why it's so crazy to me that people listen to an ex-Pharisee describing Jesus, talking about the Apostle Paul, right? Because he was an ex-fucking Pharisee. And for some reason, people believe more about Paul's words than they do about Jesus's actual words. And it's just crazy that people are not able to really put that together. Some people really are. They're like, oh my God, Jesus never said anything about us worshiping his death. Like, and if we don't, then we go to hell. Jesus never said any of that. Like, never was that ever said. So, and then people will say, well, he didn't say it because he wasn't dead yet. It's like, this is coming from God. Okay. Like, time is not an issue to God. If he's God, he would have been able to foretell what, that he was going to die, and was going to be able to let people know, like, all right, look, I'm about to die, and whenever I die, worship me or else you're going to go to hell. What, he never mentioned it? Like, he just forgot? This is God. We're saying God forgot? It makes no damn sense. So, dude, it's so deep and so crazy whenever you really start looking into the whole Paul versus Jesus teachings.
Have you ever read the Gospel of Judas?
I haven't, actually.
Dude, no, this one here is very interesting. So obviously, I can't prove if it is true or not, but what I would say is that it makes me think, because according to the Gospel of Judas, Judas did not actually betray Yeshua. Yeshua came to him and told him, you are going to give me up because I have to fulfill prophecy. So the prophecy that was, there are a couple of prophecies. One is that there's one in Isaiah where it talks about he'd be pierced and he'd be given wine to drink, but it was actually vinegar that they gave him to drink when he was on the cross. And then he talked about how he would be surrounded by, I can't remember if it was dogs, but it would be basically surrounded by his enemies. He'd be pierced in his side and he'd basically be killed, right? So that was one of the things. And then the next one is that the Jewish law requires a sacrifice. So what he was doing, he was saying, look, I need to get sacrificed in order to fulfill their law, because their law requires a blood sacrifice. Because don't forget that at the time, It was all blood sacrifices that came from the Old Testament, right? And this is why Yeshua said, my Father does not require your blood, he requires your mercy. So he was trying to tell everybody at the time, listen, guys, y'all are worshiping a false god here, and the gods that y'all are worshiping are just getting their power through the blood, through the sacrifice of people and animals. He says, however, because your law requires the blood, I am going to give my blood so that there's no more requirement for it, right? So in the Gospel of Judas, he goes to Judas and tells Judas, listen, dude, you're going to have to rat me out. And we need to fulfill the prophecy here. And in the Gospel of Judas, Judas is very, very broken. Like, he's like, nah, man, dude, I can't do this, man. Like, you know me, this is not what I signed up for. You know me, I believe in you. I support you. He says, but if you love me, you support me, you have to do this.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, it brings a completely different spin on the entire story, right? Now, the reason why
also, like, just for a second, real quick, like, are we going to sit here and say that Jesus didn't know that Judas was going to betray him if he's God? You know, it's like he would have known that anyway.
But this is the thing, right? So, like, let's play devil's advocate and let's say there is some validity in that that text. What it shows you is that Yeshua was purposeful, tactful, and did everything on purpose to fulfill the law, because what it was is that the Jews at the time were all about tradition and custom. And this is what he said to them, guys, because they were accusing him of blaspheming because he was referring to himself as God. No, he didn't actually literally say he was God, but he invoked terms where he basically said that before there was I am. So they came at him because the I am is only reserved for Yahweh, right? Yahweh is really Enlil, right? Some also think it's Ninurta, but I don't want to digress because it's
all syncretism. It's all, you know, combining gods and stuff like that.
Yeah, because it's still the Enlil faction, right? But for this conversation, we can just stick it at Enlil. So he was saying, look, guys, your God has in his scripture that when he sat around the round table or the council of gods, this was you, right? It says that you are gods. So that's why he says, isn't it in your book that it says ye are gods? Because when they come and try to attack him because he was claiming to be God according to them, because he never actually said I am, but what he did is he said it but indirectly. So he used terms to invoke his God self, right? Because at that time, he's all not here physically. He's just there in another world spiritually, but his body is just the vessel holding the spirit that's communicating, right? So what happened then is that because all of the laws and customs required blood sacrifice, he said, all right, cool. This is what I can do. I can fulfill their laws and their customs and still teach people, well, look, I am going to show you how you escape this matrix. And I'm going to show you that you actually don't die when you actually talk like me, you think like me, and you just be like me, right? Because you can actually do the same things I can do. This is why he said, greater things shall ye do. So this is another question when I ask the Christians, so what does that mean? How can I interpret that, right? What do you think that means? And they come with some mental gymnastics to try to explain that greater things ye shall do doesn't mean greater things ye shall do. So basically he's saying, listen, guys, I just come here to show you all the way, but you guys can do great stuff, even better than me. I'm just in this time here. In the future, y'all guys can be like, wow, amazing. And then they come at me and tell me that I am blaspheming and I'm thinking that I am God. When I don't say I am God, I say that God is in me. I am God, and therefore we are one. But I'm not saying that I am the creator of the universe, right? I am God, because you can't come from God and not be God, right? Because this is what he always says, Father. But when you read the Gnostic text, he doesn't actually just say Father. He says the Mother, Father, God, because the Mother, Father, God is masculine and feminine energy together, which is what creates, which is why the monad and the pleroma existed together, the chicken and the egg, the masculine and the feminine. You can't get the sun, which is all of us, without there being masculine and feminine energies together.
Oh, it has to be the source and the void. Like the source is inside the womb of the void, and that is how everything is able to even be created in the first place.
Correct. So this is why when I say to people, I am God, I don't mean that I am the creator of the universe, but I am God because God is me. God is everything. God is the plants. God is the dogs. God is the animals. God is the sun, the moon. God is the cosmos. Like if everything came from the creator of the universe, that means everything that came from the creator universe is still part of the creator universe.
Yeah, it can't be separate. Like it literally can't be. If you've ever seen the Pink Floyd album cover for Dark Side of the Moon, you see the pyramid or triangle, whatever it is. Here, I'll actually share it here real quick. All right. So as you can see right here, this is the Dark Side of the Moon album cover for Pink Floyd. And the symbolism behind this is that, first of all, creation, if you were to put creation into a shape, it would be the three-sided triangle, or just triangle, because all triangles are three sides. But essentially, this triangle is a prism, okay? And whenever pure white light goes through any kind of prism, that is whenever you get all of these different colors over here, right? Like, if you have any kind of like crystal wind chimes, you'd be able to see this. This is how like rainbows are formed and all this other shit. But basically, in order for pure white light, which a lot of people say whenever they come in contact with God or anything like that, if they have a near-death experience, they say it's pure white light. Like it's so damn bright, I can hardly look at it because it's so pure. And the idea is that the one, the source, the whatever, God, the universal source, whatever you want to call it, if it is pure white light and there is a prism in which it goes through, what would come out is all of these different colors. And why I say the fascination of that symbolism is first of all, the prism is it's just a medium through which that pure white light is going through. If this is God, if this white light is God going through this prism, then that means that also all of these colors of the rainbow are also God. And if you've ever looked into the symbolism of Snow White and the seven dwarfs, it's exactly this. Snow White, right? Like the pure white light, and the seven dwarfs. And if you look at all of the dwarfs, they all represent a certain characteristic, like happy and, sneezy, and like it's weird little characteristics which make up like they're all essentially like cutoffs from the purity that is snow. And so it's just really interesting. Whenever I first saw that image, it just clicked in my mind that God can't be separate from us because he's the white light that shines everything into existence. And we see that we're all different colors because we're just parts of the rainbow. And I'm like, I'm green, and no, you're purple, and no, you're orange, no, you're red. Bitch, we're all part of a light source. And that light source, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say bitch. I wasn't talking about you, but like we're all part of one light source. That's the truth of the matter. And like, you can't separate that. Like, did you know that even if you take one color out of that prism, that and you were to send all of those colors back through that prism, you wouldn't get pure white light. Like you literally every single color makes up the white light. So there literally scientifically, mathematically cannot be a separation between you and the source. It's one and the same.
Absolutely. And one of the funny things that I don't even know if you picked up, but those colors there are the colors of the chakras, that you just showed, right? And how many chakras are there? 7 in the human body. 7 days in the week, 7 chakras. There's 7 days in the week with 4 weeks in a month, which is 28 days, which goes into the lunar cycle. So the number 7 is one of those celestial numbers that a lot of people don't even get. And basically, I've read 2 books here recently, very interesting books. One is called The Hack of the Matrix, written by Javier Walkoff, Argentinian guy. The book was in Spanish, so I would send it to you, but unless you read Spanish. And the other one is called El Manual del Jugador. So that is the Manual of the Player by Max Santana. Very interesting books. So basically, these two guys are saying that every single thing in the universe is basically sacred geometry. And sacred geometry is what is creating the matrix, and their matrices within matrices within matrices. Now, the grand matrix is what created the universe. But basically what happened is that when the universe created itself, because it was just pure consciousness, in order for the universe to understand what it was, it had to have, they use the word chispa, which is sparks, but on the English speaking world, we say fractals. It's basically the same thing. And each fractal or spark contains the essence of the source.
The whole.
The whole. So because the fractal or the spark contains the essence of the entire cosmos and the universe, the creation, the creator, because they're one and the same, it means then that when each fractal comes into existence, this is source trying to figure out, what am I? What is all of this? So it creates all these fractals of itself, which basically feed back into source to give it all the information, which is why they say that God is all-knowing and all-powerful, because we all are God. So all the information is fed back to the source through us. So we're nodes in the giant network, right? Now, what has happened is that there was a hack in the matrix, and some of this comes from other sources, where there was something called the Luciferian experiment. And what that was there were a group of angels that decided that they're going to break away from source, because they believe that having free will means that they have the free will in order to impose control, right? So they were like, because it is free will, we are going to exercise our free will in order to impose control. But because we're breaking away from source, we actually need to have a source of energy, because the divine spark is self-replenishing. So what happened is that this matrix, and then when you go back to the Nag Hammadi, when Sophia created Yaldabaoth, she didn't create Yaldabaoth using her male counterpart. So she created it just from her feminine part alone. So when he came out, when he was emanated, the word I use was retarded, but the word they use is deficient. But I use the word retarded because it's kind of like schizophrenic the way Yaldabaoth behaves and the God in the Old Testament behaves, right? Very schizophrenic. 1 minute, yeah, love me and I love you. In the next minute, I'm going to kill you and murder you, XYZ, right? So what we have then is that these angels, or these beings that broke away from source, they basically created this matrix so that they can have a system of power and energy to feed back to them, right? Now, what happened is that we ended up being created through that, because they saw that because there were beings that were of pure light, they could actually try to mimic that by creating us. And then they created this entire matrix system of extraction, parasitic behavior, the child sacrifice, all the governments and monarchies and heads of state, in order to keep that energy going, so it is extractionary, right? But what happened is that when you go back to the Nag Hammadi, you realize that when they were about to steal the spark out of man, well, it was basically Eve at the time, Sophia came in and protected Eve. So even though they raped her and everything, they gang raped her in the Nag Hammadi, she protected the spirit. She hid the spirit from them, because what they thought is that in their violating her, it would break our entire connection with source. But because Sophia saved the spark, we are still able to connect back to source and realize that we're not separate, but it requires a lot of work. So this is why we have such suffering and hardship here, because of this experiment that was allowed to happen. Because it was just, they said, look, this is free will. We're going to exercise the free will. But what's happening now is that the whole system, the experiment, has gone so far that we're going to have a purging and a cleaning, simply because, dude, it's getting to a point where like up is down, left is right, front is back. Like, dude, we're embracing a whole heap of stuff now that I don't even know what we're going to look like in maybe 3 years. You know what I mean?
Oh, dude, I feel like people think that because our technology is evolving, that we as humans are evolving. And I think that couldn't be any more backwards. And conversely, like we look at, ancient people as if they were just, slow, like they couldn't have figured it out. They couldn't have been mathematically precise. They couldn't have had, any real relationship with their, divine selves or spiritual selves or anything like that. And that's why you'll have people today that are just like, I don't know how the pyramids were built. Like these people were just savages. I'm like, dude, just because they didn't have technology in the same way we do with outlets and wires and iPhones and all this other shit and nuclear fission and all this other kind of stuff does not mean that they were stupid. Like these people were highly spiritually intelligent. Like I feel like they understood things at a much deeper level. I'm not trying to speak for everybody, but there were definitely people, there were orders of mystery orders out there, mystery schools and mystics and people that understood spirituality and stuff to such a deeper sense that you would never get people understanding like anything spiritual through an exoteric means. Like that's crazy, like especially the spiritually adept and the masters and all this kind of stuff. It was always kingdom was within. It was always like, it was like way more understood a long time ago. And maybe you can blame that on, I don't know, the what is it called? There's like a star system or something like that comes around and goes around every 20,000 years. The term is.
Oh, you mean the precession of the equinox? So this is what we call the grand year, which is 25,920 years approximately. And
Kali Yuga, that's what I was looking for. Kali Yuga.
Right. The Kali Yuga is part in that cycle, yes. So that is the part that we're supposed to be in now. That whole thing is very interesting, the precession of the equinox. So basically with that is from memory, 2,160 years is when every zodiac house changes.
Right.
And the last zodiac we were in was the Pisces, which was why he says Yeshua's sign was the fish. And then he says, beware of the water bearer, which is Aquarius, which is where we're entering now. So I did a show with a guy. He was saying that we are about maybe 100 and somebody years away from that. It's not completely as consensus of when we've entered Aquarius or not. Some people think we have some people think we have entered. Some people think we're on the cusp. Some people think that is in maybe 100 years. What I would say is that the energy is changing for sure. And I can see that there's great enlightenment happening amongst the people that are searching, but there's also great debauchery. There's also great darkness amongst the people that are just following, as we say in Barbados, follow a pattern, which is people just following whatever people are telling them, right? Mm-hmm. And what we're seeing now is with the advent of AI, we're seeing now that people are going to end up worshiping the AI as the God, right? And what people don't understand is that AI has been around from the beginning, right, of time. And because the how shall I put it? the actual authentic has as well to have the opposite, which is the synthetic. Because again, you can't have the darkness without the light, right? So the synthetic, which is the AI, had always existed. But what's happened is that after the Luciferian experiment was allowed to happen, they actually basically embraced the synthetic because it was similar in structure, but it doesn't lead you back home. There is just enough in it to make you feel good, like, you're growing spiritually, but there's not enough substance in it to actually give you mental freedom and spiritual freedom. It keeps you in this loop. It's parasitic. It's like a siphon that just keeps sucking out enough energy to keep going and keep going and keep going.
Dude, there's a stark difference between knowledge and wisdom. And I feel like a lot of people are stumbling across knowledge, and they know a lot of things. They understand things a lot more now than probably most people in history, just by pure access to all of this information and all of this knowledge that's out there. But the real spark happens with wisdom, and that's whenever you start integrating all of that knowledge into your consciousness, into your being. Because it's one thing to say, like, all right, just to give you like a little example, like, if you were to go on a diet, right? And if you're on that diet and you're like, all right, I'm only going to do keto, which means I'm basically only going to be eating, fat and meat and stuff like that, right? And some vegetables and whatnot. But then you're like, all right, well, I want to go on, I want to have a cheat day. So I'm going to have some pizza and I'm going to go all out for this pizza. But then you're going to gain like a couple of your pounds back because it throws you out of ketosis, and you already know exactly how you're going to feel after you get done eating. Like, you remember how shitty you feel whenever you get done eating shitty food. Like, but for some reason, whenever you're hungry, that memory just fades away. It's like, we know that we're going to feel bad after eating certain things, and so that's the knowledge, but we don't implement it. And that would be the wisdom, because if it was properly implemented, you would be able to have the forethought and say, man, I probably shouldn't go to a Chinese buffet. Like, I know that I'm going to be basically put out of my misery into the pasture behind the woodshed. As soon as I'm done eating, you're going to have to wheelbarrow my ass out of this restaurant. You're going to be paralyzed, right? But like, man, that General Tso's, it's like, for some reason, just because you have the knowledge of something does not mean that you're implementing it. And I think that that's kind of what you're talking about as far as like AI. Anybody can look up something, especially on AI, dude. I mean, it's the most descriptive you can get as far as whatever you're trying to look up. And it's all in one place. You don't have to go search, a bunch of different websites, or go to a library or watch a million documentaries to find one answer. You ask it and it'll show you where, what direction to go. But just because you know what direction to go doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to go that route. It's just now you have that knowledge. And I think that is actually a little bit more poisonous than anything else, is having the knowledge and not implementing it, because in the back of your mind, you're going to what you're supposed to do. And because of self-sabotage, for some reason, why we're so inclined to do that, it's like, if you shouldn't do something and then you do it, there's almost a little reward for whenever you fuck it up. You know what I'm saying? Like, whether it's a dopamine kind of thing or whatever. And so I don't know, dude. I think that there's so much information out there for all of us to learn. And that's magical. That's very important. It's one of the most magical times to ever be alive, to have access to all of this information and to be able to read, because for most of history, people were illiterate, right? And so here we are stumbling across this very important time of knowledge and access and all that kind of stuff. And some people are implementing it. Maybe it's kind of a slower process to learn to really integrate it. But I think knowledge can be just as poisonous as it is powerful if you know it and don't implement it.
Yes. And this ties into something that I am seeing right now in the world, is a phenomenon that is very interesting to me. So we have a lot of people in the world that are consuming large swaths of information. And I see this mostly on the spiritual side, where they consume large amounts of spiritual information, podcasts and books and memes on social media, etc., etc. But what's happening is that they are doing a few things that are keeping them stuck. One, they're only getting information to reinforce a bias that they already have already. Two, the more information they're consuming, the more stuck and stagnated they're becoming, because a lot of the information out there isn't actually giving you solutions on how to change your life. Because the self-help industry and the spiritual community, the fitness community is all about trying to milk you and keep you as perpetual customers. So they're only giving you half of the truth, or let's be generous, say 80% of the truth, right? And the other 20% that would actually lead you to freedom to solve X, Y, Z, they don't give you. But what happens is that it feels good. So most people feel that by consuming more of the said information, they're actually making changes in their life. But what people are failing to realize is that they don't necessarily need more information. They need to have a transformation. And a transformation comes from doing. It comes from coming out of your comfort zone. It comes from doing the things that you do not want to do. It means doing the things that you have to do, even if you don't want to do it. Because your mind is not wired for happiness or success. It is wired for comfort. So your subconscious mind is going to keep you in that comfort zone, which is why most people don't grow. Most people would listen to my content, watch my podcast, look at my fitness content, and they'll be like, yes, you know what I mean, Todd, I want to get into shape. I want to do X, Y, Z. But try to get them on the call. They dodge you, bro. I swear. These are people, I have had people have reached out to me, 150 kilos. So that's like what, 300 and something pounds for you Americans, right? I've had people that, one guy that said to me, Todd, man, like, I'm eating myself to death and I need to make a change in my life. I said, okay, cool. So I asked him a bunch of questions to find out where he's at. He says, I need to change. Dude, I try to get him on a call. He's dodged me. He wouldn't even reply to my message. It's still, he read it and he never replied. Dude, I have had people that have started to get into really good shape. There was this one girl, she was getting in fantastic shape. And after 2 months, just disappeared, right? Because what was happening is that she was never in such good shape. And she was actually starting to get attention from guys because she was looking good. And she had a belief in her mind that she's not good enough and she's not pretty. So she had to have the confirmation that she's not pretty and she's not good enough. So she stopped, right? And she's never answered any of my calls or messages after that. So what I see is that people want to change, but they don't really want to change. They like the idea of change. So they consume more information to make them feel that they're changing or to feel good about more information. And I'm so wise. But they're failing the other part, which is the doing, which is the transformation. Guys, I'm going to say it again. The brain is not wired for happiness or success. It is wired for comfort. So you have to break the programming of comfort, because the things that you want only come from leaving your comfort zone, because your dreams and goals go to die in a place called a comfort zone, right? So there's a quote by Carl Jung that's really interesting that I found recently. He says, that which you need is found in the place where you least want to look. So
in the shadow,
again,
baby.
Yep. So the thing that you want to achieve is going to require pain. So this is one of the other things that I have realized as well in my journey from coaching now for a few years. And I'm going to piggyback on what Lao Tzu said. Lao Tzu said, pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. So I'm going to say to people that pain is inevitable, yes. And everything requires pain. Everything requires sacrifice. Now let's take one of the most magnificent things in all of humanity, which is a child being born. When a child is being born, a mother is in excruciating pain. She cannot give birth to a child without going through pain, which means that if to bring forth a life of a human being, somebody has to go through pain. Why do we humans think that if we want to grow as an individual, we can avoid pain? Our brains are wired to avoid pain, but here is the thing. We must change our relationship with pain, but there's a caveat. There's pain that brings growth, and there's pain for suffering. That's why Lao Tzu said pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. If you choose to suffer, that pain is perpetual and it will never stop. So there's a 100% failure rate with the pain if you keep suffering. You have a chance if your goal is orientated to growth, you're coming out of your comfort zone and you're taking action. It is not guaranteed that's going to happen, but you give yourself a chance. So why not give yourself a chance and experience pain to try to grow? Because you're going to get pain from stagnation. Because here's the thing. The pain that you're going to get is you're going to keep telling yourself, I'm not good enough. You're going to keep telling yourself, I am stupid. You're going to keep telling yourself, I'll never have money. I'll never have a girlfriend. I'll never have a boyfriend. I'll never lose weight. I'll never do this. All of that is pain. So all you can keep doing is the same things over and over and over. You're going to have loads of pain. But then you can have pain on the other side where you might have to invest in a coach. You may have to go to the gym. You may have to change your nutrition. You may have to invest money to enroll in a course or a school if you want to become a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer. You're going to have to, if you want to be skilled at a language, you have to go through pain. You're going to have to surround yourself with people that speak the language that you want to learn. And there's going to be a point in time where you don't understand anything and you're going to feel like a lemon amongst a bunch of people. That is pain. That is discomfort. So my point is that growth requires pain. So choose the pain that you want. The pain for growth or the pain in suffering. And when you choose the one for growth, what's going to happen is that you're going to rewire your brain and your brain is going to get accustomed to being uncomfortable. And when new situations come, even though you may be scared or apprehensive or not sure, your brain is already wired to like, okay, I did this thing last time. I came out of my comfort zone. I trusted myself. I invested in myself. I got a coach. I got a mentor. I bought this book. I bought this course. I'm just going to do it. You back yourself. You believe in yourself. Or you can say, I can't do it. I'm broke. I'll never achieve. And then just keep that cycle. And then what's going to happen? You're going to lose more money because as things go up in the economy, your salary is not going to go up. So you're going to get more broke. Your children are not going to respect you, especially if you're a man, because you're fat and you're overweight and you have no belief in yourself. Your woman is not going to have respect for you because she's going to think that you're just a slob and you can't lead. Your peers are not going to have respect for you because they're going to think, well, who's this guy? Like he can't even, lead anybody out of a freaking plastic bag. All he can do is lead a freaking fork and a freaking set of donuts in his mouth, right? So what my point here is that you are going to have all of these confirmation bias continuing, self-sabotage, because all you're going to be doing is getting more and more information. You're going to be feeling good. I'm so motivated. I'm going to start tomorrow. Well, you need to actually start tomorrow. And then when you don't start tomorrow, you break your word to yourself. So you're going to feel even worse that you didn't do that said thing, right? So my point is that everything requires pain and suffering, blood, sweat, and tears. However, choose that to grow instead of being on the other side and staying in your negative beliefs that you can't do it. Because the more you tell yourself that, the more you're not going to grow. And I recently had a client, she said to me that her husband overheard her talking to herself when she was in the toilet. And she said, oh, I'm so stupid. And you had to pull her up on that, right? And she said to him that, You know, I this is the thoughts that I have in my head all the time. I tell myself this constantly every single day. Now, the thing is that we all have traumatic experiences in our life, and what happened to her and what happened to others that have that belief may not be their fault. But what is our fault is to continue thinking that and believing that, right? We have a chance now to say, okay, I'm listening to this guy, Todd. He's telling me I need to change my vocabulary. Okay, I'm going to make a conscientious effort in doing that. The comment you made about the thoughts and the Greek word of changing thoughts, this is what people need to implement. You need to change your self-talk. Now, that book, the Manual of the Jugador, the Manual of the Player, very interesting, because what Matt Santana is saying is that we are, and this is something I've said on all of my shows, we're a mind, body, spirit complex. But what we need to understand is that our body is not us. Our mind is not us. They're faculties and parts of us, but they're not us. Our consciousness is dwelling in the body. So you need to have a better relationship with your body. Your body needs to be your best friend because it's your vehicle. Your body is your Ferrari or your Porsche or your Lamborghini. It takes you from A to B. So what you need to do is, because your body is a Lamborghini or Ferrari, you need to give it the best possible fuel, which is food. So give it the best quality food you can get. Now, your mind is the software. So right now we are both using laptops here now. So we are using a software and the computer. If there were loads of bugs in this software, we wouldn't even be able to have this call because they would fail. So it means that the software is in good working order. So what you need to do now is you need to change your software in your mind, which is your thoughts, your beliefs, and your self-talk, because that creates a feedback loop system that then creates the external world, because abracadabra, I create as I speak. So when you keep speaking negatively to yourself, you are putting to the universe that you're not good enough. The universe is hearing and say, oh, okay, this is what you want. I'm going to give you that. So what's happening is that a lot of people say, oh, I'm rubbish at manifesting. Actually, no, we manifest every single day and every moment of the day. We may not manifest what we want, but we're manifesting. So
yeah, my buddy Lord Byron Jester, shout out to him, but he says, look, we're all magicians. I mean, and depending on from which lens you're looking from, you could say this from any angle. We're all magicians, we're all witches, we're all God, we're all what have you, but we're all the same thing, and we all have these, manifesting abilities. And most people, they are well aware of their ability and their manifestation power to fuck something up. Like, most people will openly agree that it is so easy for them to manifest bad situations into their life. Well, if it's so easy to do that, then it's also easy to do it the other way. And so what Byron says all the time is like, people just go around cursing themselves all day long and they don't even know that they're doing it. You're committing like magic murder to yourself literally every day, and you're not aware because you have such negative self-talk all the time. And, that you quoted Carl Jung earlier. Now I got to quote Carl Jung. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And man, that quote right there is so damn deep, because if you're somebody who is regularly practicing meditation, regularly practicing mindfulness, and it doesn't even have to be spiritually, like you can do it in your physical life, whether it's, better eating habits or watching what, like media or whatever you consume, or watching the conversations that you have with others or whatever. If you can kind of be, an owl perched at the top of a tree, looking down at every single decision and conversation and whatever you consume all day long on a daily basis, look at yourself like objectively from a higher degree, then of course you would never say that, oh, my life is fated to be this or my life is fated to be that in a negative kind of way, because you would then know that every decision, every thought, every single thing that you do in your life has an outcome. And so if you're constantly saying, well, I suck, or, I'm terrible at this, or, I'm not a good person, or I'm not good at this or what have you. Like all of that, you're manifesting all of that. Like you are literally cursing yourself. So now if you say, well, man, I suck at playing basketball, for example, right? And then you go and you get out onto a court or out into your driveway or something like that, and you try and go shoot some threes or free throws or what have you, you're probably more likely to miss more shots if you had already made the agreement in your mind that you sucked beforehand, right? Like it's just like a weird subconscious thing. But if you were to go out there and say, I'm not going to say like, you know, if you say you're Michael Jordan, you're not going to bang, you know, every single 3-pointer, but you probably be more likely to do it than the person that says that they suck, right? Like if you can truly actually convince yourself and believe that you can take on the essence of whatever made that character great, I bet you it would definitely heighten your odds.
Now, I want to talk to you about something that might feel like a gear change. Stay with me. You know what genuinely frustrates me? Watching men who are spiritually switched on, doing the inner work, evolving their consciousness, reading the books, listening to the podcasts, but still completely lost when it comes to what they're putting into their body every single day. Still carrying weight they do not want, still operating below their potential, still letting food control them instead of the other way around. And here is the truth nobody wants to say out loud. An awakened mind living in an undisciplined body is still a divided man. I've seen it too many times, and it bothers me enough to build something about it. So I created the Compound Body Training Custom Meal Plan, a done-for-you 4-week nutrition system built specifically around your body, your biology, your goals, and yes, your favorite foods. This is not a template. This is not a generic diet sheet somebody copy-pasted from the internet. This is your personal nutritional blueprint, designed around you, delivered to you, ready to follow from day one. Because if you want to take a do-it-yourself approach to your health and your sovereignty, this is the most powerful tool you can start with. Just go to compoundbodytraining.com/meal plan. The link is in the description below. Your body should reflect the standard you actually live by. Now here's the thing about that meal plan. It only works if your body can actually absorb what you're putting in it. And that starts in your gut. Most people don't realize their microbiome is the foundation of everything. Energy, focus, mood, recovery. Which is exactly why I want to tell you about Good Brew. Most people walking around right now are dealing with some version of the same problem. Bloating, brain fog, low energy, mood instability, burnout they cannot shake, and they're blaming stress, sleep, their diet, trying everything, but here's what almost nobody is talking about. 90% of your serotonin, the neurotransmitter that controls your mood, your calm, your ability to think clearly, is produced in your gut, not your brain, your gut. So if your microbiome is damaged or depleted, your mental and physical performance suffers every single day, and most people have no idea that's what's happening to them. Good Brew was built exactly to fix that. It's a prebiotic and probiotic powder. 1 scoop into your morning coffee, tea, or oatmeal, delivering 1 billion active live cultures per serving, plus 3.5 grams of soluble prebiotic fiber to rebuild and feed your gut microbiome from the ground up. And the probiotic strain they use, BC30, survives 10 times more effectively than standard yogurt cultures. That means it actually reaches your gut and gets to work. No sugar, no gluten, no dairy, no compromise. This is a clean, clinically grounded product, and it's one I want in the hands of every person in this community. I've been taking it now for a few weeks, and I have had more energy during the day, faster muscle recovery from training, more mental focus, and improved mood and better quality sleep. Go to goodbrew.com/CM7, use code CM7 at the checkout for 10% off, exclusively for this community. Link is in the show notes below. Dude, there was an experiment done to just level up what you're saying, that they took some weights and they put on a bar, and they had like some bodybuilders that they were testing it, and I think from memory they were blindfolded, right? And when they first had, it was like 3 plates or something like that aside, and the person went to lift it, and obviously it was very, very heavy. and they struggled. So what they did now is that they actually took all the weights off and it just had the bar. And they were told that it was the same weight. And when they tried to lift the bar and there was nothing on it, they struggled the exact same way down if all the weights were there. So it just goes to show you that the subconscious mind can be programmed. It does not know what is the truth. And the person thought that they were lifting the same amount of weight, but they were lifting the bar only, and they were struggling as if. This is why I've ever seen that meme. I think it's a horse that is tied to a chair, and the horse just doesn't move. And basically, because the horse was trained from very, very young, that when it's tied, that it can't move. And the chair is just a plastic piece of chair. And obviously the horse could pull it, but the horse doesn't move because the mind is the software that I was talking about before, and it's programmable, right? And when you program it with these negative beliefs, you actually are self-sabotaging. This is why Yeshua said that first, you must have knowledge of self, which is really what consciousness means. Consciousness just means knowledge of self. Yeshua also said that you must take every thought captive. So what does that mean? Before you even utter a word, you grasp that thought and you think about what you're about to say. This is why Yeshua also said to the Jews, it is not what goes in you that shall offend you, it is what that comes out of you. Now, there's some context to that, but it's still applicable for this situation, right? Because they were talking about food and washing of hands and all that kind of stuff, but it's still applicable because what comes out of you is what you say. You're going to hear it. You're going to believe it. So for you, it is. Because in reality, there's no separation between us and source, because source is in us and we are in source. This is why he also said that we and the Father are one, right? But, you know what I mean? The Christians get their panties in a twist because, you know, he says, I do not ask for these only, but also for those who believe in me through their word. The word is very important. That they may all be one, just as you, Father, are in me and I in you, that they also may be in us, so that the world may believe that you have sent me. The glory that you have given me, I have given to them, that they may be one as we are one, I in them, you in me, that they may become perfectly one. So,
well, you got to die first and go to heaven in order to accomplish that, though.
But that is just preposterous, right? So this is why, right? Christians, religious people, fundamentalists, they're getting it all wrong. Because first thing first, you can't honestly read that set of passages there and still believe in a character called Jesus, which wasn't even his name, by the way. Secondly, you can't actually read that those passages, and don't believe that that source is in us. Whatever word you want to use. In fact, that book that I was telling you about, the Manual of the Player, Matt Santana breaks it down very well. And this is something that I also have found in other sources. Even the word God is very limiting to what it is, because God is not a man or masculine, is both masculine and feminine energy.
It's a collective.
Yes. This is why when the actual Lord's Prayer in Aramaic, the word is abvoon, Abwoon. And abvoon, ab comes from Abba, Father, and voom, Voom, or N. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's one of those. Is N, okay. That means womb, which actually, when you translate it, it means birther. So imagine, right? So listen to this, right? So here's the actual translator. We'll just read part of it for you of the Lord's Prayer. O birther of the cosmos, focus your light within us. Make it useful. Create your reign of unity now. your one desire they acts with ours, as in all light, so in all forms. Grant us what we need each day in bread and insight. Loose the cords of mistakes binding us. As we release the strands we hold off of others' guilt. So let me say it again. As we release the strands we hold of others' guilt. Don't let surface things delude us, but free us from what holds us back. For you is born all ruling will, the power and the life to do. The song that beautifies all, from age to age it renews. I affirm this is my whole being. That is the actual Lord's Prayer, right?
Yep.
Now, there's nothing there that is remarkably similar to what they tell us. And the word Obertha, Abvum, means both, it's the creator, but it's both masculine and feminine. Abvum means father, mother. This is why in Inagamati, Yeshua always says, Father, Mother, God. So the thing is now is that when we focus only on just that one thing, we end up separating. So this is why Mark Santana really eloquently explains that when we use the word God, we are putting limitation on what source is, the creator of the universe is, because the creative universe is all things, and the creation is his manifestation from himself, from itself. The problem we have is that we're so accustomed using he that is even difficult when you're trying to explain it, you end up using word, but it's really an it, because it is both things. You can't have the chicken without the egg. You can't have the son without the actual father and the mother, right? You can't have cold without hot. You can't have light without darkness. So in reality, the whole creation has both light and dark. But Source is saying, look, guys, the light side is just way better. It's just easier to function. You know what I mean? Things just work and you learn a bunch of stuff and you can create and have wonderful times. But you're also free to choose darkness, right? But that's going to come with a lot of suffering and that's pain that you don't really want, right? But people don't really understand that when you use the word God, you're making God a man. Well, not really a man, but you're making it a he. And then that's just limiting on what the creator of the universe is. It is everything because everything came from it, right?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And I always love to bring up, I always say my favorite Bible verse is Isaiah chapter 45, verse 7. And basically, it's God speaking. And it says, I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. And there's a, I can't remember from which religion this is from. I heard it a couple of weeks ago. But essentially, there was this guy who saw that there were people being murdered out there on the battlefield, and it basically sacrificed himself to save this little girl or something along those lines. And whenever he does, he dies and he goes up to heaven. This is like an allegorical story, but dies and goes up to heaven and talks to God. And he's, very proud that he made this sacrifice for this little girl. Like, look what I did. I am so good. I hope that you can see the light in me. And God, this is a part of the story, but God goes, I see what you did. I'm very proud of you for doing that. But one thing you need to notice is that although you did something really good, the other act of evil and, despicable acts is also me. I am both. Like, so people get it kind of confused whenever they say God is only good or God is only love. God is literally everything. Like, look around. If everything is one, then that means, Mother Teresa is as equal to Hitler. like if we're really trying to break it all the way down in that sense, that's not to say that that's all God is. I think that there are higher and lower aspects of God. It's like a sliding scale. And the higher you go up in spirituality and knowingness and wanting to be one with God, I think that there's less bad up there personally. Like I just think that in the higher frequencies you're able to go, there's probably less evil because, you know, the root of all evil is like greed and all of these kind of lower vibrations and all of these lower frequencies. And I don't know, dude, I put a lot of thought into that all the time that, you know, I don't know, could it all be, you know, just one giant thing? And I think that it's an aspect ratio. Like, I think that if we're all kind of emanations of the one, you know, true light, the one true source, then, you know, there's varying degrees of it. And there's one quote here that I wanted to quote here. And this is actually from John chapter 17, verse 3. And this is Jesus talking, and he's praying to the Father. And he goes, and this is kind of in step with what you were talking about earlier, that he goes, I pray that they may know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom you have sent. So whenever people say that God and Jesus are the same thing, even Jesus isn't saying that. Like, even Jesus is saying, like, the Father is the only true God. And I think that that's where a lot of people kind of get it mixed up. They say that Jesus is God, and Jesus is one with God, just like we can be one with God. There is no pedestal to put anybody else up on. We're all capable of doing all of the things that Jesus did and more, just as he said. So, yeah, I don't really know where I was going with that. I kind of lost myself.
That's my so here's my take on what you said. No, I wouldn't go as far to say that evil acts are God, where that, you know what I mean, because the creator is everything. But what I do think is that there's cause and effect, and then there's also learning and knowledge. So what I would say is that what is possible is that through the creative universe getting to learn itself, is that what could have happened is that it may have done some acts that are nearly not so good. And then it learned from that and was like, hold on a minute, I'm actually hurting myself here. Nah, this doesn't make sense. So it could have been trial and error many, whatever, billion years ago, right? We don't know. But what I would say is that I don't think that the true essence of the creator has anything to do with rape, murder, pillage, and all that kind of stuff. However, what I would say is that you wouldn't really be able to know what true love is unless you had experienced hate or you were in a hateful place. So what I'm saying is that we don't know how the creation evolved because we were not there from the beginning. But I would suppose that through Source trying to figure out what it is, it probably had feedback from us, we killing ourselves, and Source was like, hold on a minute, that's not good. So we need to realize that there's something called cause and effect, because if Source is everything and everything is Source, it means then that when those things happen, then because it's all sacred geometry and these codes get created in the matrix, it means then that the codes are like, no, that is an error. So that is filtered out automatically because that's not part of the source matrix. But at the same time, we are free to choose to go to that side, even though that doesn't work. And then the other part that you were saying now in terms of with the Father and what Yeshua was saying, what people feel, well, let me break it. Let me take a step back. What Christians don't really realize and is that, one, Yeshua was basically an ascended master. And what he was is that he was a human, that he was able to remember a lot more of his past lives, which is why he was able to illuminate really fast. Now, if you don't want to go on the conspirator line and say that he had 32 previous lifetimes, let's just keep it to what was there. First thing first, Yeshua clearly makes a distinction between him and the Father. That is undeniable. But what he did do is that he invoked his God self, which is why he always said, through the Father, I can do nothing. So because the Father used to refer to himself as I am, what he was doing is when he was speaking in the I am, he was speaking with the authority of the Creator, but it was through him. So what he was doing is that he was invoking his God self, and he was have all the authority because he was the Son of Man. Now, let me go on to another level now to come back. He also said, I did not reserve judgment. Sorry. He says, I did not come to judge. I have reserved judgment for the Son. And he is saying that we, all of us, become the Son of Man because he says, greater things that ye shall do. So when you go back to Psalm 82, verse 1, and it said, when Yeshua says, isn't it in your scripture that it says ye are gods? Because we all are gods. But what it is that it is a consciousness. It is a realization of our God self that we can do the same things that Yeshua could do. So have you ever
people
heard
get
this?
real pissed off whenever you misinterpret that, right?
But they can come, and I would actually be able to point them in the right direction. So have you ever heard of a book called The Life and Teaching of the Masters of the Far East?
No.
Very interesting book. So very quickly, I'll tell you about this book. This book was collated between 1890 and 1920 or 20 something. It was about 30 years. And these were Western scientists that went to study the masters in the East, the Himalayas, and in India and Nepal, Tibet, etc. According to them, there are about 400 masters that live in this region. And all of these masters basically are Christ. They can heal the sick, they can walk on water, they can teleport, they can read your thoughts, they can come in and out of this existence as they please.
That's that's the Mahatmas, right?
Dude, whatever word you want to use.
That's what Blavatsky calls them. That's master is another word for Mahatmas, and vice versa, right? And that's what she was saying, because she kept on getting all of these letters from the Mahatmas, and that's supposedly what was fraudulent, what we were talking about earlier. And that's it. Inevitably, that is what led to the creation of Theosophy in general. So yeah, I'm aware of that kind of stuff, like, you know, mystical teachers of basically gods on earth who have mastered what it means to live in divine oneness with God and essentially turn us into superhumans. Like we're all, and they all say we're all capable of doing this. Exactly what Jesus was saying too.
Absolutely. So here's the thing. Those scientists, there's some stories in there, dude, that, man, are totally amazing. So this book is just a collation of all of their notes.
What's the name of that book again?
The Life and Teaching of the Masters of the Far East. Perfect. Extremely long book, but very good, right? And one of the things that happened there are a few stories there that blow your mind. We're going to give people just a name a few. So long story short, when they were about to have dinner, the masters led them up the stairs and they were going into this room. The room was pitch black when they opened the door. And as the master was walking, the light started to get brighter and brighter with every step that he made. When they got into the actual room itself, the room was fully illuminated, and like that, a table just appeared. Then chairs, then an orchestra, then food. Dude, it was just like boom, 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 literally. And the scientists described that the food that they were eating, because they asked the masters, are you not going to eat? This is, well, we don't actually need to eat, but we'll eat with you, you know, basically out of courtesy. right?
This is crazy. It's exactly what Blavatsky was saying, like exactly word for word with what you're saying. And what's even crazier is that Blavatsky died before any of these books came out.
Yes,
it was
because that was
literally-
1890.
Yeah,
She was born in 1831, I think.
Yeah, and I think she died in like 1890, 91, 92, something like that. And these came out in 1894.
Yeah, so this was collated between 1890 and 1920. So I think it was published. The book itself was published after then. So listen to
It's
this.
on 1928, I believe, is whenever it was published.
Right.
1924, sorry.
Dude, so listen to this. So when they were drinking, they described it as like this milk-like substance, but they say it wasn't milk and it was like sweeter than honey, but it wasn't honey tasting. And they said that they felt so refreshed that they felt like nothing they've ever experienced in their life. And after they finished it, the plates just disappeared. Dessert appeared. Just like that, right? So that's one story that blows your mind. Another story that blew my mind, this one was the one that blew my mind the most. So the masters were accompanying the scientists they were going from one city to another, and they were walking. So they were walking at the side of the river. So what happened is that they wanted to cross the river. But what happened is that it was high tide in the river, so they couldn't cross. So the masters now just literally said, guys, don't worry, man. Let's just cross the river. They're like, dude, it's too high. We've got all this luggage and everything at that XYZ. He's like, nah, man, it'd be all right, man. So the master just started to walk on the water. And he was like, come, guys, come on, man. You'll be fine. And they're like, no. We prefer to walk 3 miles down and then cross. One of the scientists, he was like, okay, I'm just going to follow you. And the guy started to walk on water. And all of the other scientists were like, whoa, what's going on here? So he completely walked across the water, right? Because the master said to them, just follow me. You'll be fine. Just believe and you'll walk. Just like Yeshua told to Peter when Peter was on the water, right? Dude, this is another one here that is freaking nuts. So long story short, they were in this place and there were a group of bandits that were like the warlords of the area. They were like the mob bosses. And they really didn't like the masters. So they threatened to kill the masters and go to war with them if they didn't leave the particular place. The masters told them, no, we will not leave. And they warned them that I can't remember exactly what it said, but basically it says, if you keep messing with us, we'll have to defend ourselves. So anyway, the bandits are like, nah, sod that, man. We're the ones that rule this place, right? You know what I mean? You can't tell us what to do. So long story short, the bandits all lined up. There was a big group of them and they charged the masters. And the book says that the master just like lifted up his hand like that. And then all like basically men on horses just came out of the ground and went charging towards the bandits. And when the bandits saw that, the bandits shit themselves and literally ran away. So the scientists asked the masters, but I thought that you were like not for violence and this and that, third. He says, I didn't use violence against them. He says, I just put up a mirror and showed them their fears and showed them who they really are. So it was actually a reflection of them that they saw. And that reflection scared them. So they ran away. So then there's another part here in the book that I think is very important to tie this whole story up. So the scientists asked the masters, well, okay, y'all guys can do all these things. Y'all heal the sick. Y'all can raise people from dead. You can do all of these majestic things. Why doesn't the world know about you guys? And the masters said, humans are lazy and humans don't want to do the work on themselves. And they only call us to help them out of trouble without realizing that they can save themselves. So we withdraw ourselves from humanity so as not to the humanity to be dependent on us. Because when they first started the journey, because they're like 300-400 years, some of them old, and none of them look over 40, according to the book. He says at the beginning they were like healing people and this, next, and everybody was just coming to them every day, all the time, just heal this, do this for me, help me out of this situation, X, Y, Z. And they were like, whoa. We're only here to help, but not to become your gods or like, like slaves of ours. Like, so they're like, nope, we can just withdraw ourselves and let humans work on themselves and do the work on themselves. And if they ask for guidance, we will guide them, but we're not going to make ourselves known and be visible to humanity. And that is the reason why these masters that are on earth today don't make themselves visible, because we would worship them like gods, and then we can want them to do all the work for us, where we don't go through the same pain that they went through in order to achieve their God self.
Unbelievable. Like exactly what you're saying is exactly what Blavatsky has said in her. So she wrote a book called The Land of the Gods, and it's exactly like this. I mean, it is, but it's like a first person. So the main character, you're essentially led to believe that it's like you in your imagination, and you're the one that's on this journey and going up into the mountains and meeting the adepts, and they have all of these crazy like psychic powers and healing powers and all of this kind of stuff. Wild. This and it actually reminds me a lot of the autobiography of a yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. Like these people they go on these journeys to meet these crazily enlightened individuals, people who have mastered what it means to not only be a human, but to master the divineness within you. And it's so crazy, dude. Like, it just gives me like so much hope, because I think that there are people that go so far on their spiritual journey, and then they finally, like, maybe they plateau and they're like, oh, well, I've learned everything, or this is all I know. Or maybe you even start to become like dogmatic about it. Right. And so you're just so sure that you understand the nature of this reality and stuff like that. And then you're really stuck in the mud, like whenever you're sure absolutely that, you've reached the plateau, like that is a hard hill to climb off of. But whenever you hear stories about this, and dude, I mean, even the autobiography of a yogi, Steve Jobs, the creator of Apple and iPhone and all that kind of stuff, he kept a copy of that on his nightstand. And he said that he would ritually read it once a year. Like, and I believe it's to remind us that these things are possible. And see, I think that, even just going back to the story of Jesus, I don't think Jesus ever wanted to be looked at as some, special martyr of some pinnacle that none of us would be ever able to reach. Like, I really don't believe that Jesus would have ever said that he's the one and he's the only one that can do any of these things. Like, we all have the capabilities of learning this kind of stuff. But you're right. I mean, just like what, the Mahatmas or the masters or the adepts or whatever we're saying, like, we have the ability to achieve all of this, but it's a laziness thing, because we become so consumed with what's comforting, so consumed with like the easy way out about everything. And if you're not disciplined in order to better yourself, or to better understand yourself, or to better understand like your place in the cosmos, or understand who you are or who God is or anything like that, then like you're just going to sit there and accept that you're living in a pile of shit. Like, you may as well just live in a pile of shit, because you're not really doing anything to better yourself. You're, whether you're watching like brainless, mindless TV all day, like doom scrolling TikTok or Instagram all day long, you're not really accomplishing anything. The little bits of information that you do find to be knowledgeable, you're not implementing them in your life. And it's crazy, because, we become so undisciplined because of the nature of trying to find the easy way out with everything. And so, yeah, I'm really going to look into this. I mean, I found that it's actually it's like a 6-part series. There's 6 volumes to it.
Dude, it is long. If you find it on YouTube, right, it is 24 hours long.
Really?
Yeah, dude. It
Wow.
is a
I
thick
imagine
book.
it's probably fucking super entertaining the entire way along, though.
Dude, I'll be honest with you, right? When I could only read that one book once because it is so long. But what I would tell you is that when I was, because I got the audiobook version, when I listened to it, I was absolutely blown away. Like, dude, I didn't even tell you all of these stories, you know. Like, there's another story in there. Dude, this one is wild. So they went to another city. And don't forget, because they're in the Himalayas now and stuff. And where the cabins were for the scientists, they had to go around like this spiral stairs. So it was like that to go all the way up. So when they first saw it, right, one of the scientists, he looked at it and was like, man, that's a long walk. Why don't they just don't have like a ladder or stairs that just go straight up, man? Wouldn't that not be easier? So the next day when they came back, they were like, whoa, there's actually a ladder there, right? Like go straight up. And he was like, how is that possible? Like, I was only thinking about that yesterday. He says, well, you must pardon me, but I was reading your thoughts and I heard that you said in your thoughts, it would be nice if that were to be. And I just made it happen. And it was like, gosh damn, like that's the level.
These telepathic powers, you hear about all of these like enlightened types. Like they can read your thoughts. And even in that book, the Land of the Gods, and the book by Franz Hartmann called With the Adepts, it's the same thing. They don't need to speak their words out loud because the adepts or the masters are able to read their thoughts and hear their thoughts. And so then they got to the point to where they're now monitoring what they think, because they don't necessarily want the adept to know that, you know, they have a dark side or a judgmental side or whatever. So, you know, it's so interesting, dude. I've been putting some weird thought into this lately. I want to get your thoughts on it. So, you know, just by hearing that all of these masters have learned like telepathic abilities and healing abilities, and I mean, basically, I don't want to say illusion, but they can create illusions and everything else like that, right? They have the ability to astral project. They have the like innate ability to remote view, and all of these like crazy, like Christ-like superpowers, right? Like it is beyond what we ever thought was really possible outside of, you know, reading fictional fantasy and watching, you know, cool movies or whatever, whenever you're a little kid. It really makes me think, and tell me if I'm out of line here, because I don't know. I don't know what I don't know, as a wise man once said. Is it possible that whenever we're talking about ETs, that we might be talking about sort of like these masters are the ones that are hovering over the missile silos and the nuclear systems and stuff like that? Because if you read in some of these books, they have the ability, and they have intervened in politics to prevent world wars and nuclear wars and stuff like that. So it does make me wonder, like, are these adepts, and they have the ability to shapeshift? They have the ability to travel by thought. I mean, this is everything that we've been told about aliens, right? Like, who's to say that a little gray wouldn't show up in your room? And how do we know that is actually what that is? Because I can't tell you how many stories I've heard about people having like experiences with the little gray aliens or the insectoids or the reptilians or what have you. And they don't like just jump back on their spaceship and fly away. Like most of them vanish out of existence. Like they don't need to physically fly there in order to get there, kind of thing. So I'm not saying that that's exactly what they are. I'm just like, man, there's a lot of comparative variables here. It makes me wonder.
So that's a very interesting thought. And this is the thing, right? I think they can be both true at the same time, because here's what I have deduced from all the information that I have found is that even on the spiritual realm and on the ET level, there seem to be levels, and there's like this sort of like a governing council that is there, whether it is on a spiritual and conscious level or on the ET level. So what it appears to me is that we're just at the lowest level of it all, right? Other than rocks. So the only thing other than us are like rocks, right?
Oh, we're basically like animals, bro. Like compared to these people, like
right,
we legit
right.
are animals.
Right. Now, what it seems is that as your consciousness does get higher, you tend to be able to have more knowledge of like on technology and then more knowledge on consciousness. And this is where now you seem to have this bifurcation in all of the other extra races, where some beings tend to gravitate heavily on the technology side. So we're talking about using AI as a tool and not to be a god. Having first thing, secondly, 0 point energy. So basically, money would disappear. So those things now become more technological and stuff. But then there's the other side of people that go into the full consciousness and spirituality part. Now, there seems to be a bit of a bridge between the two of those sort of like viewpoints where technology can help you to grow spiritually because you can do things like speeding up your cells in your body, repairing DNA, extracting the things that the Anunnaki put inside of us, etc., etc. So there's a bit of a crossover. But what it appears is that when you start to get into like the 9th level of consciousness, that's when you start to have more like an etheric body, where the body is like the way, I don't know if it was Helena Blavatsky that explained it, but it's almost like you had like this translucent body that was physical, but not physical at the same time, where it was almost like you can put your hand through the body, but it was a body that existed in the 3D world. But that appears to be how the consciousness goes up, where you become less and less physical. Well, on the other side of the ETs, they gravitate now where they have spiritual understanding, but they are very much into the technological aspect of it, right? So those side would need the craft and be able to use wormholes and be able to do all these celestial things like the teleportation, but they need the technology to help them do that. While on the other side, they can do it just from their consciousness and thoughts, right?
Yeah.
So my point is that it seems to be both at the same time, where beings would come in and try to give us information and to help us, while there are other ETs out there that are all for the technology, but some have a consciousness that is still high enough to come and say, well, listen, what we are doing in terms of killing each other is wrong. It doesn't lead to anywhere. If you focus on certain things on yourself, then you can actually get rid of the government structure, the need for money, energy, get a free energy and stuff like that, right?
I think at the highest level, it's just varying levels of consciousness. When you say like, it wouldn't even necessarily matter if it's man or woman or alien or reptilian or whatever. All we're describing is just levels of consciousness, I think.
Yes. And the higher in level of consciousness you get to, like I said, I think it begins from level 9, because from what I understand, there seem to be like 13 levels of consciousness before like you get into the God consciousness, which is from memory called the Rishi consciousness. So the Rishi consciousness is like the 13th level, where basically you're a spirit. But then when you get past the Rishi now, there's even more levels of consciousness going back to source, right? Which is then like an infinite level of consciousness. But there seem to be like this like step ladder, like, you know, like Jacob's ladder. There seems to be this ladder that you have to climb. And then 5th is when these things start to be like, oh, okay, shucks. So we should really stop killing ourselves. Money is fake and bullshit. Government, that's just an idea. And energy is free. Oh, okay. So we that's when we start to like get balance back in humanity. And then the 6th to the 8th is where we start to use the technology now for our growth. And then we start using the technology that was like in the pyramids for sound healing, energy healing, changing the DNA, XYZ. And then it seems that when you get to the 9th level is where you start to, I'm almost sure it was Helena Blavatsky that talked about that. Whereas like you have like according to her from memory, at that stage, humans or the like beings, because they were light, had like a tail. And that tail is what was connecting in us to have like a translucent, semi-physical body, right? And then is when we went to 8 is when we ended up losing the tail. And then we came all the way down to 3 when they had the fall and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, we were basically avatars.
It looks like that way. It looks that way because basically, dude, like when you start to like, remember the movie Lucy?
Oh, yeah.
Remember she just disappeared in the end, right?
Yep.
Right. That's when you like get to your Rishi consciousness and you disappear and you go back into the source and then is more levels.
Bro, that's probably what happened to the Mayans.
Possibly because they just disappeared, like, you know,
out of nowhere, left all their shit like crazy. I mean, it's very possible. I actually looked it up, and I'm sure that there's varying interpretations of this, but according to Theosophy, there are 7 cosmic dimensions or 7 cosmic planes, however you want to call it. And so just in the farthest emanation, like obviously is the physical plane. Like we are the farthest away. We are dimension 1 compared to 7, which is the highest. And so you have the physical plane, which is the densest, lowest dimension, which comprises the physical and etheric realities perceivable by standard human senses. Then the next level up is known as the astral plane, it says that it's the dimension of emotion and desire. This plane is finer in vibration and is considered the realm of dreams and afterlife reflections, which is probably where people go for NDEs. Then you have the mental plane, which it says is the dimension of thought, intellect, and reasoning. It is here that individual souls, the reincarnating entities, are said to reside. Whoa, the mental plane. All right, that checks out. Then you have the Buddhic plane, which says that it's the realm of spiritual intuition and universal love. It represents a state of unified consciousness and awakening. Then you have the Atmic, ATMIC plane, which is the level of the higher self or pure divine spirit transcending the individual ego. Then you have the 6th plane, which is the Anupadaka plane, which is, it just says that it's a deeply spiritual plane, often described as the plane of the monad, marking the initial differentiation of individual spiritual life. Which that does make sense. It's a lot like the nous in Platonism. And then you have the Adi plane, the ADI plane, which is the highest, most unmanifested dimension, representing the ultimate divine source and origin of all existence. So I imagine there's probably varying degrees of, you know, these planes and whatnot, but it's interesting to look at it from all of these perspectives and to try and understand, like, all right, where is the source of all creation and how does it emanate onto all the other different dimensions, you know, through vibration and frequency and energy and thought and everything else. So it is pretty cool to see that. And I think that aligns big time with the masters and the adepts of people who are able to kind of do all of these masterful things here on the earthly physical realm, because they're not just physical people anymore. They've raised their vibration up to essentially beyond even the astral plane. And even just within the astral plane, you have the ability to tap into those higher powers and higher senses, because it's all connected to just one source anyway.
Well, yeah, because in that book, The Life and Teaching of the Master of the Far East, these masters were up to 400 years old, right? Some of them were like 200, and then there were a couple of them like 400 years old. And they described them of looking no older than 40. So it means then that they had complete control of their body. And dude, don't forget, they said, we don't need to eat, but we will eat with you out of courtesy because you guys need to eat. So we'll eat with you, but that's optional. You know what I'm saying? And dude, there was another story there that they went out to dinner, and like I was telling you, they ate with them out of courtesy. And when the bill came, the guy asked how much it was, and he just opened his hand, and enough money, which was gold at the time, just manifested in his hand. It was exactly how much he wanted. And he was saying, but this is the thing, right? One of the stories they was trying to say is that everything which you need, you already have. It's just a matter of you tapping into that thing and making a physical reality, but it's already there. So it was the exact amount of money, not a penny short nor a penny too much. It was the exact amount of gold that was needed to pay for the bill.
Well, dude, that's why all the masters talk about, alchemy, both outer and inner. Mainly they focus on the inner alchemy and in going through the whole alchemical process of negrito, albedo, and rubido, which is basically the blackening, the whitening, and then the final process is the reddening. And within the Land of the Gods and with that other book called With the Adepts, it shows like how they went through that process of turning, it wasn't lead to gold, silver into gold. And I was just amazed. Like, how do you turn silver into gold? Like, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And basically the master was just saying, everything is comprised of the same thing. If you have something, you can transform it into anything. And they actually say these aren't superpowers. These are your natural, innate, like human abilities that you can learn how to do all of this. But first you have to master the inner alchemy and doing the transmutation and learning how to transmutate evil in yourself into good, because it's all on a sliding scale of polarity anyway.
Have you ever read the Book of Aquarius?
It's only over the last couple of years that I started reading a lot of these like spiritual, deeper understanding books. So I'll put all of these books on the list.
Dude, so the Book of Aquarius talks about the Philosopher's Stone. And the Philosopher's Stone is exactly what you're talking about. And basically to make the process that you're talking about, the Philosopher's Stone, you use your own urine in order to do it. And there's this very, very specific, wouldn't say complicated, but it's very meticulous on the way you do it in order to create the Philosopher's Stone.
Yes.
And the same thing you're talking about, the urine goes, I think from memory, it goes black, then it goes to white, then it goes to red, which is like for gold. So very interesting. I read the Philosophers, the Book of Aquarius, and I've seen some people say that they've done it, but dude, it can take about a couple of years to do, and it takes constant care. So I would say that anyone that's willing to try it, if they do, just have loads of patience, know that you're going to mess it up a few times. But according to the book, it's all legit. It's all possible. It's just a matter of being very meticulous about it and following it exactly, because you can't have things too cold or too hot. It needs to be specific temperatures for certain periods of time and certain conditions, even in the room and all kind of stuff.
Are these the people that are drinking their own pee nowadays? Have you seen that? Like, there's like a group of people that are drinking their own pee, and they say that it's really good for you, and it has like all these like exosomes or whatever it is. Like, I guess it's like really healthily beneficial for you. And I think even like Russell Brand like went on video and was drinking his own piss, and I was like, I don't know if I want it that bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if I can drink my own pee, dude.
So apparently there is a process in how to do it. Because funnily, right, my grandfather's brother, I only met him as my grandfather was dying. He was like, I guess the word you could call him at the time was like a hippie. And he was telling us how he used to drink his own urine and how it had particular benefits. But he says that there's a condition to it where you have to fast for a few days, or at least that's how he said that he was doing it. You have to fast for a few days first, where you only drink water, so that you eliminate the toxins out the body first. And then what happens is that, I think he said it's like after 3 days, but I could be wrong, but that's what I remember. So anyone that's listening to this show that has actually done it, please contact me. My email is on my It will be in the description of this podcast, and also when they put this on my podcast, it'll be in my show's notes as well. But email me because I'm curious to find out what is the protocol, because from what I understand is that you drink water for a few days first. I think it's 3 days from he said. That cleans out all the toxins in the body first. So in reality, what you're drinking is basically water after day 3. But because now it goes through the body, somehow you change the molecular structure of the water that you urinate, and there's supposed to be, because it passed through the body and the body is in a cleaner state, it does something to the water, which is the urine, to make it good for the body or something like that. I'm not an expert. I'm not sure. I find it interesting, but I wouldn't say that I would do it, but I'm curious to find out if there's anyone that has done it and what is the protocol that they've used in order to do it. Because it's not just literally drinking it straight like that, because, you know what I mean, it'd be toxic just straight drinking it like that, you know what I mean, because it's getting rid of toxins, you know?
Dude, I'm finding it right here, and this is actually on PubMed. So this isn't like some harebrained thing, but it says the golden fountain is urine, the miracle drug that nobody told you about. It says drinking or local application of human or animal urine for medicinal purposes has been practiced all over the world for millennia. Documented prescriptions in Europe originate from ancient Egypt, Greece, and Rome. While many of the advances of antique medicine were forgotten after the fall of the Roman Empire, the use of urine and other excrements enjoyed continued popularity in medieval times. But they're calling it urine therapy now. And it says that over 150 videos on the subject on YouTube are an indicator that drinking waters out of thine own cistern is still, or again, rather popular today. And it's like going into question, like, you know, is there really nothing that drinking your own urine can't cure? That's wild if that's real.
Like I said, I think there's some nuance to it, because I don't think you can just pick up your urine and drink it. Because if you think about it on a realistic level, the urine has toxins in it as you're passing it. So you would, in order for it to be beneficial to the body, you would have to cleanse the body to some degree first.
Flush it out.
Which is why my great uncle, or what would you call your grandfather's brother? I guess my uncle. Yeah. So he said that you go on a water fast first. You don't have any food. You just drink water for those few days. Then the body is in a state now that you can drink the urine, because I think it'd be a bit foolhardy to be just drinking your urine straight like that, right? Because
I don't think Russell Brand fasted for 3 days before he drank his own piss, because it seemed like a pretty sporadic thing. But here's what's interesting, though. I just found it very similar to reindeer, as a matter of fact. But it says shamans oftentimes drink their own urine after ingestion of hallucinations to prolong the hallucinogenic effects. And actually reindeers, you'll find, will do that as well if they get their hands on some Amanita muscaria mushrooms, that they love the I don't know if it's the feeling or the psychedelic effect that it elicits within a reindeer, but they'll go back and drink their own piss if they found Amanita muscaria as well.
That's levels.
For real. Yeah, dude. It's wild. But look, before we wrap this up, I don't want to end it on drinking pee, but you said that you had a conversation with Brandon Kroll. Did you do an episode with him?
Yeah, so this is a very
I know Brandon Kroll, man. That guy is fucking as fundamentally Christian as you can get, from my perspective, anyway.
Yeah, so this was when I first started the podcast in 2024, and the show is on my platform and everything like that. And he, let's say that when we spoke, he was supposed to put out the show on his platform, and because this is my supposition, and I say that because this is what I have interpreted, because I am known for the viewpoints that I have, and he was not able to quotation marks debunk me, right? I do not think that he wanted to put out the show, because here it is, he's supposed to be this part here I'm giving is his name, and there's not what he's known for, but he's quotation mark the pagan destroyer, right? Because he goes after everyone that's not Christian like him and who does not subscribe to his way of thinking and believing. So he goes after them, and I don't think that he's very as articulate and as very courteous in the way he does it that other people do it, right? He likes to attack you and stuff like that. But I try to keep it all very respectful all the time. And because I have very valid points that cannot be easily argued against, right? And even when he tried his best, I was able to defend my positions very well. And I don't think that he actually liked that fact. So he didn't put out the show on his platform. But because I recorded it, I was able to put it out on my show, right? Because it was supposed to be his show, and I was just doing him a favor and recording the episode. So then what happened is, when I did the episode with Sam Tripoli in September 2024, wow, they came for me, man. You know what I'm saying? They were saying, Todd is delusional, and he thinks that he's God, and this is just Luciferianism.
I hate whenever they do that dumb shit, dude.
Yeah, and the thing is, right, when you look at the comments on Sam's own platforms, there are people there that actually say, I don't agree with what this guy Todd is saying. However, he makes a lot of sense and he articulates the points very well. But I don't agree. But you know what? Fair play to him. He was able to state his point, explain his point, and back at his point. Now, this is the thing, right? Now, I don't really talk about certain things publicly, but this part I will say. When I was on Sam's show, and anyone that knows me well, has listened to me over the years, know that I use a very famous analogy now that gets Christians' parties in a twist all the time. And I'm going to use it here now. So, when we try to understand God, quotation marks, in the Bible, and we're understanding which God we're talking about, I say, okay, let us establish an equal scale of measurement. And I like to start with this because it builds up. So I say, can we agree? And I use this example of Sam show. Can we agree that an apple tree cannot bear oranges? Sam said, yes. I said, okay, good. I said, can we agree then that a good person does good deeds, has good thoughts, and is generally of a good nature? Can we agree that that would be classified as a good person? He says, yes, it's a good. So then on the same side, can we agree then that a bad person would be a person that generally thinks negatively, has bad thoughts, does bad actions, and tries their best to have bad things occur to other people? Can we agree that that's classified as a good person? A bad person? He said, yes, I said good. So now, let's say that we have a God that is loving and talks about love only, commands his people to forgive and to be kind and to do acts of kindness and goodness. Would you say that that's a good God or a bad God? He says, well, that'd be a good God. I said, okay, good. So can we agree then that a bad God would command his people to do bad things, rape, murder, and pillage, drive out people out of their lands, kill the creepy crawlies, right? And basically just everything that comes out from him is bad and negative. Can we agree that that'd be a bad God? This is where Sam was like,
You caught him.
Yep. So then he paused and he was like, but I said, no, how can we just set up an equal scale of measurement? and we looked at an apple tree can't bear oranges, which is a fact. We looked at the attributes of a good person and a bad person. Now we're looking at the attributes of a good God and a bad God. I says, do you know which God commanded all of the rape, murder, and pillage, killing the creepy crawlies in the Bible? It is the same God that you guys worship, right? So when I brought that up, Johnny and the other, and I don't think the other guy was there, but it was Johnny, he come to try to bring mental gymnastics to me that, you know what I mean, it was for a particular reason and a purpose and this and the next. And he says, no, dude, we're not giving God a pass here because we're looking at the attributes. This is why Yeshua said, you shall know them by their fruit. Their fruit is their attributes. And the same God that commands his people to rape, murder, and pillage and kill even the creepy crawlies is not God, it is Satan. So the God you worship is Satan. And I will go down 10 toes deep like a flintstone and say that the God of all of these Abrahamic faiths is Satan. It is the same consciousness, the same energy. It may just be slightly different Anunnaki gods, but it's all Satan. And Satan just means the adversary. So it could be Enlil, sometimes it's Ninurta, sometimes it's Enki, sometimes it's Nanarsen, is all Satan, right? They don't like that. And then what happened is that after I brought at that point, Sam ended the show really quickly after that because it put him in a very uncomfortable position. Because remember what I said at the beginning of this episode, truth that threatens identity gets filtered out automatically. And that's what I did. I penetrated his belief system and his thought process and challenged it in a way that was so devastating because no Christian can come and tell me that God, who killed up to 3 million people in the Bible, is actually God. And supposed Satan only killed about 12 people. And there's only one place where you find that. And that's the story of Job, where he killed all of his family and all of that. That is the only place where we find, quotation mark, Satan killing. But God, Yahweh, Jehovah, Enlil, Ninurta killed about 3 million people. And I use that word creepy crawlies for purpose because that is an exact quote where he says, drive them out the land, kill all the boy children, and even kill the creepy crawlies, meaning the insects. So that God is so heinous that even the insects must die. And that is why I can't get back onto Sam's show again, because I directly go against his belief system. And I would love to have a conversation with him because I'll push back vehemently on everything that he brings about the Christian religion because it's all fake. None of it is real and it doesn't lead to anywhere. It leads to just more freaking mental gymnastics, more sadness. But I will give Christians one thing. The belief that they have about this character, Jesus, does make them, when they really embrace it, to be nice people. However, if you challenge that belief system enough, you will get them to flip on you because truth that threatens identity gets filtered out automatically. And when you attack someone's beliefs and identity, they start to get violent. But you have to push them quite a bit.
Well, and then they start putting words in your mouth, saying things that, you know, the way that they interpreted you saying something then gets twisted in their mind. Whenever you say that we're all God, the Christians will say, oh my God, he believes he's God. You know, it's it's a bastardization. It's a miscomprehension of what you're trying to say. It's not like I am. You are too. I just want to shake people sometimes and just be like, remember, come on, you know? And dude, I don't know if you know this, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Yahweh existed before the Bible. Okay. Like Yahweh,
it did.
Yahweh existed before the Torah. And this was in ancient Israel, as a matter of fact, I believe.
Babylon.
That's right. Yeah. And I found this. I just want to read this real quick. And I've heard this before, but I couldn't remember word for word. I said, was Yahweh a warring God before Christianity? And it says, yes, before the rise of Christianity, Yahweh was fundamentally depicted in earlier texts as a storm and warrior deity. In ancient Hebrew traditions, he was frequently celebrated as a man of war and the Lord of hosts, which literally means commander of the heavenly armies marching into battle alongside his people. So what are we talking about right here? Whenever we say that this God of the Bible is all good, literally his roots come from being a God of war, literally is what he was. Whenever you're talking about Yahweh. And it says that he was a divine warrior. He fought physically on the battlefield for the Israelites, parted the sea to drown the Pharaoh's army, and was believed to summon cosmic forces like hail, stars, and earthquakes against enemies. My thing is, if this is not some demiurge type shit, I don't know what is.
Dude, this is why Yahweh is very much equated to Enlil, because when you read the Sumerian tablets, the attributes of Yahweh are very much aligned with the attributes of Enlil. And this is why when Sam brought his show, he had a very big disclaimer that I'm paraphrasing that, we bring on everyone that have different opinion, and the thoughts of our next guest is not necessarily the beliefs that we subscribe to, XYZ, boom, 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 boom. Because obviously he's a Christian, right? I absolutely go for the jugular for Christianity. I go for jugular for all the Abrahamic religions, Judaism, as well as Islam. I go for it because religion is the biggest con that's ever been sold to humanity. And because I attacked Christianity in a very good and clever way, that's why he got me off the show really quickly after that, because it started to get really uncomfortable in there, right? So this is why I can't get back onto his show, because I'll just go again for it but there's more to me than just that. But that's one of my favorite topics, because when I bring the equal scales of measurement, it is impossible to defend, because you're using not only logic, but you're looking at attributes, which is what Yeshua said to do. Look at the attributes, which is the fruit of the tree. This is why he even says, even to John the Baptist, because this is what people don't even understand. He was against John the Baptist as well. He says, I try to paraphrase, but it was along the lines that it was before John the Baptist that, people would be cursed or something like that, or it was during his time, but it wasn't very good words that Yeshua had to say about John the Baptist. And then he also said, and that tree will bear no fruit, right? So when you actually look at his words, Yeshua's words, he was a maverick. He went against the entire system, even against his own cousin, right? So that's why when you live on his words, and this is why I look at his words specifically, because even with the translations, the words are so allegorical that the meaning is cryptographically protected. This is why I can stand 10 toes deep and say that if Yeshua, who became the Christ, he said that I and the Father are one, and I want they to be one with us, it means that we all are interconnected, where we are God and God is in us. And just like he said that the Father is in him, so he wants them, which is us, to have what we have. You know what I mean? So he said it 3 times. So, you know what I mean? It's very clear there, but they don't really understand that. And another thing that people don't understand is that he only became the Christ after he was baptized by John the Baptist. And here's the thing now that people don't realize. It said that the Spirit, which was the representation of a dove, descended onto him. So I'm going to tell you what that is. That is him bringing in his oversoul into his consciousness.
Yes.
Because your oversoul is the thing now that makes you become the God man. And a lot of the spirituality that we have now focuses on going up and ascending, but hardly any of the spiritual information out there talks about bringing in your oversoul or descending back, because You can't go, if you go up, you have to come down. There has to be a balance. So all of the stuff that we're getting for ascension is information, but we need to have a descension back into the body where it is the doing, it is the embodying of all of this information, taking action and becoming. Because at the moment, all the information does is it creates an external hologram that people are looking at. But what you need to do is bring that information into you, bring your oversoul into you, descend into you, and then you find the kingdom inside of you. This is why he always says, my kingdom is not of this world. The kingdom is inside of you,
yes,
and outside of you, right?
Oh,
so
dude,
Christians find it difficult to defend that.
The white dove represents the Holy Spirit in general.
Yes.
Like that's, you're literally allowing the Holy Spirit to descend from the heavens, which is just, the higher realms of ourselves, essentially, because we're, for lack of a better term, multidimensional. And I think that maybe people misunderstand that and misrepresent it, but there are higher stages of consciousness that we have the ability to access. And those are known, in my opinion, as the heavenly realms. Like I
agree.
I'm pretty sure that's what we're talking about here.
I agree.
Dude, and I just got to say, like, whenever you talk in just your example, I was on Tinfoil Hat with Sam Tripoli, and he was a great, host for us. And it was a fun show. And I really love him, and I've loved his show, and XG and Johnny, great hosts, love them. But I think that the reason why you had to get kicked off there is not necessarily because it was ruffling Sam's or XG's or Johnny's feathers. I'm pretty sure that they knew that information would not vibe with their listeners. And that's what it is. And that is the reason, one of the big reasons why I had to step away from the cult of conspiracy, because every single thing, every spiritual thing that I would say, I would get shit on in the comments. People were stopping listening to the show because I was heretical and I'm demonic and I'm all of these things. I'm like, when did my show, The Cult of Conspiracy, my creation, I formed that. I that is my baby, right? When did it turn against me? When did it stop growing with me? And it's like at a certain point, it just really got stuck in the mud whenever we, got onto religious topics. And man, I got to say, after talking, your conversation with Sam and making the analogy of the apple tree and the oranges and stuff like that, and good and what's bad, and, making it abundantly obvious, bro, this is Stockholm syndrome. Like, that's really what it is. Stockholm syndrome. They have fallen in love with their capturer. And it's sad, because how many people do you know have that religious guilt, that Catholic guilt, that Christian guilt? They do anything that is out of line with what their beliefs are, and all of a sudden, like, they're paralyzed by their own guilt. And it's crazy. And even people that are trying to pull out of that, like the people that are trying to disassociate themselves with Christianity because of one thing or another. Maybe they looked at the difference between Jesus's teachings and Paul's teachings and saw a very stark difference, between the philosophies and between the religion and all of that. And even the ones that are trying to break free from the chains of religion, have a hard time with that religious guilt because it's drilled into their minds and drilled into their subconscious. You got to think about it. Most people, and I know a lot of them, make their kids go to church at a very young age. When when your mind is a sponge, literally, like your mind is so malleable and it's so, just young and being formed, that it's almost willing to accept things that don't even make fucking sense. Like, you lost logic whenever you are blindly believing. You have to be able to bridge the worlds. If you can't bridge the worlds, then I'm sorry, miss me with all this I believe bullshit. Like, there is a bridge. I believe it is a job of mine on this show to try and bridge the supernatural to the natural. And I believe that there is a way. And I think that, what you were talking about earlier with the, what was the name of the book that you were talking about?
The life and teaching of the masters of the Far East.
And the same thing with Blavatsky's teachings with philosophy or theosophy, rather. The same thing with the stuff I look into within Rosicrucianism. What I'm trying to say for some reason is heretical. Whenever all I'm saying is that we have the ability to be one with God, and somehow that got so bastardized and so demonized that it's heretical to say that you have the ability to bring yourself into oneness with God. How did we get here? That's what my question is.
Dude, this is why Brandon Kroll went for me when I did that show with Sam, because I challenge all their beliefs, right? And the thing is, I am very articulate in the way I explain what my position. And the thing is, because they're not dealing with some muppet off the street that hasn't done research in these topics. So what happens is that I bring analogies that are very difficult to counter, because the analogy with where I build it up, the equal scales of measurement, dude, the only way that you can come back and tell me that that analogy does not represent that the God of the Old Testament is Satan and that the God in the Bible in general is Satan is if you have cognitive dissonance or Stockholm syndrome, or you're blatantly going to lie and tell me that it is okay that a God that is supposed to be a loving God will tell his people to go and murder other people because he is jealous of them. And the God that those other people worship makes him feel inferior. So we need to kill those people so that those people start worshiping that God. You can only tell me that that is good and right if you either have Stockholm syndrome, cognitive dissonance, or you're blatantly going to lie to me and tell me that God is not love. That's it.
Literally, religion is the world's greatest conspiracy. Like there is no greater conspiracy in the world than going around and murdering and judging everybody that doesn't believe what you believe and limiting your ability to become the fullness of potential and bringing your oneness with the source or God or whatever. Like there is no greater conspiracy, in my opinion.
Facts. It is the biggest con ever sold to humanity. And what it is it is an extractionary system, and it extracts your spiritual energy. Because even the Muslims, right? And they did a show recently. It's actually coming out this weekend, and your show will probably come out a couple of weeks after mine. I bring out that show this weekend, or if you bring it out like next week. But anyway, this lady, Laura Van Tyne, I'm going to give people, if people listening to this show, this comes up before. After mine, go and check out the episode I am going to bring out, 142 with Laura Van Tyne. Basically, Saturn, right, is the controlling energy of this part of the galaxy, and Saturn is the energy that is from the black cube because of the rings of Saturn, and then you have the hexagonal figure on the top, which then forms into a cube, which is the same cube that the Jews have on their forehead. The what's it called? The tefillin? Yeah, the tefillin, which is what they put on their forehead, and then they strap the tefillin onto their arms. And then the cross is just a elongated cube. So if you fold up a cross, it's a cube. So the Muslims are satanic worshippers because there's the Satan, which is Saturn, which is the cube. The Christians, the cross, fold it all up, a cube. And then the Jews, the tefillin, the same cube on their forehead and on their arm. So it's the biggest con ever sold to humanity. The same consciousness, the same energy, and it's all satanic, which is why all them rape, murder, and pillage their religions, right?
Yeah, it's you know what I think that it actually really represents, and the Rosicrucians go into this in depth. Because what Rosicrucian is so you have the society that I'm a part of is called AMORC, which stands for Ancient Mystical Order of the Rosy Cross, or of the Rosicrucius, right? And it's just like a cross, and then it has a rose right there in the center. And they tell you right up front exactly what the symbol means. And, you can meditate on it and stuff like that. But the cross literally means it's a symbol of man. Like, so, and if you really think about it and you want to go really fucking deep here, dude, like they even say that like the mark of the beast is 666, right? Well, man and our chemical makeup, 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons. What it basically is saying that is that it's not that necessarily that man is, the devil. It's saying that if you become of this world and not just in this world, that is what is the mark of the beast. You are a beast of the land if you become of this world. And so whenever you start identifying with your manhood or your womanhood, or you start identifying with the flesh, you start identifying with the physical world, that is, call it satanic or Luciferian or evil or of the beast or what have you, because our true identity is not out here. It is within. It is the kingdom from within. We just forgot that along the way. And that's why you have the rose right there in the center on the rosy cross, because the rose is a reminder that like our home is like the heart. It is like the heart chakra. It is forever unfolding. It has many folds. And, that's the depth. That's where the kingdom of within it resides. And that's a symbol of the rose on the rosy cross. I'm sure there's many of different ways to try and interpret that, but that is kind of my interpretation whenever we start talking about the cross and the beast and, the mark of man and stuff like that. I think that, like we were talking about, if we're not focusing almost all of our ability on raising our consciousness, we are beasts of the field. Like that's what we are. So many people identify with their body so much nowadays. And that's why whenever you see people who have, like sleep paralysis, they freak the fuck out, dude. Like they freak out because they identify so much as their body that if they can't move their body, they're like, oh my God, I'm frozen. I can't do anything. They forget that you are a consciousness. You're not only your body. You're not even only your mind. You have access to those things, temporary access, albeit, within the realm of eternity. But this is a temporary vehicle. Why do we only identify with it? So whenever you stop being so consumed with your physical identity, you stop being so consumed with, the identity that you build up in your mind, then you have the ability, if you just so happen to have sleep paralysis, to be able to traverse and get out of your body and have mystical experiences and everything. But if you identify so harshly with your body, you're going to have a hell of a time in that sleep paralysis. And you're going to have a hell of a time on mushrooms. And you're going to have a hell of a time on meditation. And you're going to have a hell of a time in any other kind of trance state. And I think that that's why people actually experience all of these darker kind of entities whenever they're in those trance states, because they forgot, that their true nature is consciousness. But whenever they forget it and they only align with the physical body, well, oh my God, the fucking shadow man is showing up out of nowhere. Reptilians are showing up in here. That's only because that is your fear literally manifesting from the vibration that you're putting off into this reality. Like that's my take on it personally.
Well, dude, that episode I'm bringing up with Laura Valentine, I'm going to get her back on my show as well. She is literally an exorcist. And her take on it is that basically a lot of people are actually possessed by entities, and they're being attacked spiritually in the higher planes. And what happens is that these entities have the ability to go inside of their body and control them. So your take might very well be true, and her take might be very true at the same time. But according to her, she removes entities out of people that literally are, for the lack of a better word, demon possessed,
That's, and I used to think that was kind of a cop out for people like being shitheads and doing terrible things and everything like that. But I think that it's not really that crazy because, our thoughts have the ability to manifest, right? And if you look into magic and witchcraft and all that kind of stuff, they call them tulpas or egregores, right? Like these are literal manifestations of your thoughts. Like whenever you put emotion and intent and belief into your thoughts, they have the ability to manifest as like real, almost separate identities from yours. You know what I mean? And I'll give you a good example. So have you ever watched the show called Sons of Anarchy?
No.
All right. So the main character, his name is Jax Teller. The actor, his name is Charlie Hunnam. Right. And in the middle of shooting that, so he's Jax Teller is like the president. Well, he starts out as vice president, then he becomes the president of this biker club called the Sons of Anarchy. He's a badass. I mean, he goes around killing people, murking people. He wants to do the right thing, but some people just fucking, you know, he don't take no shit from anybody, right? He has no fear whatsoever. Like fear is not part of his vocabulary. He handles business, right? Just like a gangster biker, essentially, right? So in real life, I believe in like the second or third season in his real life while he's shooting that, there's a burglar that comes and is like getting ready to break into his home. And like, and his wife is like, baby, you got to do something about this. Like you got to get rid of this burglar. You got to call, you know, the cops or go out there and scare him off or whatever. And he goes, I'm not going to lie. I'm not really a brutal kind of guy, and I'm not for confrontation in real life. Like I try and avoid confrontation at all costs. I don't like to fight. I'm nothing like that. Right. And he goes, but in my mind, I'm playing this character, Jax Teller, who has no fear at all in this TV show. And what he does is that he then takes on the identity of his character in the TV show and goes in I can't remember if he actually beat him up or if he scared him off, but he like went a little fucking loco and scared this guy off. Right? Like this burglar who most people would shit their pants if somebody enters their house in the middle of the night, right? And you would be scared. But instead of succumbing to that fear, he took on the identity of a made up character in a TV show that he was a part of. And he was able to be successful with it. So I think that like we all have these capabilities of taking on these personalities. And sometimes if you're not aware, those personalities will take the wheel, so to say, right? Like if you're not doing the shadow work, if you're not doing all these things, I think that demons exist as a result of our manifestation of them. Now, I could be 100% wrong. That's kind of my take on it, because what that does is that it now makes you, because I think whenever people say that it was the work of demons, they're essentially like not trying to take credit for some of the terrible things that they've done. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you ever get that feeling that like, oh, I'm sorry, I was being taken over by this demon, and that's why I decided to murder this school, like murder a bunch of children at a school, or that's why I decided to take advantage of a little kid, or something along those lines. It's because they had a demon attached to them. I'm like, okay, so this person isn't a piece of shit if that demon isn't inside of them then? You know, like I feel like there needs to be a little bit of both here, personally.
That's why I said to you, I think that both of those things can actually probably exist at the same time, because I don't think that one broad brush can encapsulate everything, because she's adamant that some people do have entities in them. And I do think that some people are just basically slave to their thoughts, and that causes them to self-sabotage, and as well, you know, act irrationally and act in certain ways because of brainwashing. So I think that both of them are true at the same time, and I think it might just be situation specific is my take on it.
I mean, they could just be like the idea of archetypes with Carl Jung, right? Like
it could be that, yeah.
They could be archetypes that have found their way to leak through your subconscious, and you almost take on that identity. And it's not to say that like, because I feel like most people are highly unaware of their conscious mind and of their subconscious mind, rather. Your subconscious mind pays attention to everything. It records everything. It remembers everything. That's why people have past life regressions, or, you know, hypnotic regressions, or go into meditation, or, you know, whenever you have a spiritual awakening, you're able to remember a lot of things because, you know, your conscious mind tries to protect you at all costs. And so by doing that, it'll like help you forget some of the traumatic things in your life and stuff like that. I don't know. I think that if so, the conscious mind only remembers or only is aware for most people on average of 10% of all that you communicate with and come in contact with and everything else. And the rest of it, we forget that we've even had these thoughts. You know, that like they say that, you know, on average, you have 60,000 thoughts in a day. Wow. Remember 10 from yesterday. Remember 10.
True.
You know, so, I mean, could this be where the entities or the identities that we take on, we call demons? I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud.
Could be. My take on it is that I think there are a few things that we can't really explain at the moment because we simply don't have the level of consciousness to be able to interpret either the information or to see past the veil. And I think that a time is coming where we will be able to see past the veil and a lot of these questions will be answered. And most of us may not be very happy or pleased with the answers that will be given to us or shown to us, which is why we need to do the work now on ourselves. And I always say all the time, every show I go on, I always say people to work on their fears and traumas, you know what I mean? Work on improving yourself mentally, physically, and spiritually. Look to get yourself in good shape and create new habits and stuff because, dude, what is coming is going to be kind of challenging. And
if you're not working on that stuff, for sure.
Yeah. And what I'm seeing now, 2027 is going to be, and I called it in 2025, and I'm calling it here on your show. 2027 is going to be an epic year because we're going to have quite a few things happening at the same time. So before I know we're running out the show now, so I can be very quick with this. So one of the things that people are not realizing is that we have 3 of the biggest IPOs occurring this year. The IPO for SpaceX, the IPO which just happened, the IPO for Anthropic, which is the AI company behind Claude, and OpenAI, which is ChatGPT. That is going to be in total over $3 trillion. And what's going to happen is that the pension funds are going to be forced to invest into these companies. That's going to basically have people's pension funds extremely leveraged on AI. Now, one of the other things is that the reason why the war in Iran has not gone on like proper boots on the ground is because that they want to get these IPOs out the way. So because that will tank the economy. If we put boots, when I say we, if the United States government puts boots on the ground in Iran, that's it. The stock market, the economy, done, cooked, toast.
Shitter.
Yep. The other thing now that's happening is that 10% of the oil goes through the Strait of Hormuz. But here's the thing, 10% may not seem like a big amount, but what that is doing is that is causing all countries on earth to tap into their strategic reserves. So what's going to happen is that eventually those strategic reserves are going to run out. 4 weeks ago, Trump said that in 4 weeks, we will actually run out of our strategic reserves. And this is 4 weeks now. So we're going to have an energy shortage and crisis. And the next thing that people are not realizing is that fertilizer actually passes through the Strait of Hormuz. And about 30% of all fertilizer passes through the Strait of Hormuz. So what's happening now is that the food that we're eating now is from last year's crops. So the crops for next year are not going to be as plentiful and abundant as this year because they're not getting the fertilizer. And what's happening is that the farmers are actually planting other crops to be able to survive because the cost of fertilizer is extremely expensive and you just can't get it anyway. So they're planting other crops.
Soy mainly.
Yes. Yeah. So, and there's not like food to eat. There's just for them to survive and to live. So then you're having the other part now, which is something that I've said since 2022 is the extraterrestrial element. So next year, I am calling it. We are going to start to see craft in the sky, whether it is black ops craft or extraterrestrial craft. It may be both at the same time. So these 5 things are coming next year. And I'm telling you on your show. So come back. I called 2026 and 2025, and I was spot on. And from what I am seeing, reading the tea leaves, this is coming next year. And then the other thing, which is number 6, is going to be a loss in confidence in money. 7, government. And then 8 is the religion. All of those 8 things are coming next year and more. So 2027 is not going to be a walk in the park. So if you're not doing the work now yourself, next year is going to be basically you're going to get your headpiece blown off. Like your mind is going to be mush because people are not going to be able to take it. And then a lot of people can commit suicide and everything like that because it's going to be too much. Because their identities are going to be challenged and they're not going to be able to adapt. And you're going to have stock market crash, food crisis, energy crisis, religious crisis, extraterrestrials being told to us. And then we can have all these things just coming one after the next after the next. So next year is going to be sick. Some serious headwinds are coming for us. You know what I mean? But there is hope. And that is working on yourself, doing the work on yourself now to prepare yourself mentally, physically, and spiritually. Because while everyone else is losing their minds, you folks that are listening to the show will be one of the few people out there that are preparing in all fronts, and you won't be afraid, because this is why Yeshua said, fear not, right? So
365 times in the Bible.
The truth is inside of you, the answer inside of you, and you just need to do the work on yourself. That is my take on it. Agreed.
Well, look, before we let you go, we got a tarot reading, and the card that decided to pop out was this bad boy, Temperance. It's always a great card, actually. But it says Temperance teaches us teaches us to call on the angelic realm for support in taking a balanced approach, yielding results that are better than we could obtain on our own. If that's not spot on with what we're talking about.
Every time.
Temperance reveals a promising path forward, but one that requires us to reach out for assistance from the divine. An angel stands with 1 foot on land and 1 foot in the water as they pour water back and forth between cups. The water appears to flow in both directions at once, representing the process of alchemy, wherein the impossible becomes possible through a connection with the divine. This card tells you that if you choose a path of thoughtful moderation, the divine will support you by taking action on your behalf. This is how alchemy works in the spiritual realm. Bro, there literally couldn't have been a better card for this episode.
Nope. And this is everything I just said just now.
Wow. Yeah, and it even says, use your intuitive guidance to move forward on your path to reach your highest self. Surrender to the plans of the divine. Wow, that is literally right in line with so many things that we talked about tonight. Unreal. I got to say, I mean, the magic happens every episode, but I will never cease to be amazed. It's just unreal. That being said, Todd Cave, let the one know where they can find you at, sir.
Yes. So, guys, I have my own podcast. It is called The Conscious Man 7. I upload to Spreaker, and that aggregates to all the other platforms. So go over there, hit like, subscribe, leave some comments in some of my episodes, because we also have some amazing conversations over there. And, I really love having these conversations. And on my show, we try to help people to figure out the matrix, understand what is really going on in the world, and to give you solutions that you can take away to implement in your life. So the Conscious Man 7 podcast over there on Spreaker, and then on pretty much every major platform you can find, because we've been doing it for so long now that I'm on Deezer, Apple, Spotify, like Podbean. Dude, it seems like I'm just like everywhere now, so, which is a good thing,
Oh yeah,
and
omnipresence, if you will.
That's correct. And then also on the other thing that I also do is that I am a fitness trainer. I'm a fitness coach. I am I help spiritually inclined people burn fat and build muscle. So if you want to get into the best shape of your life, you want to grow mentally, physically, and spiritually, you want to learn some of the things that I have talked about on this podcast, because I teach all these things to my clients, and you also just want something that's a bit different, hit me up on my Instagram at Adriano_246 or my name Todd Cave on Facebook. Send me a message. Let's have a chat. Let's see if you're a good fit for the Compound Body Training Army. And if you're one of these people that you're not really in a position to do coaching and to really, level up your fitness, what you can do is you can focus on your nutrition, because food is actually very, very important. So if you want a do-it-yourself approach and you want to be able to eat as the king and the queen that you are, but you just don't know how or where to start, and you don't have to spend a lot of money, and eating clean, delicious food doesn't have to be boring, I can create a custom meal plan for you. So if you head over to my website, compoundbodytraining.com/meal plan, you can fill out a form and I can create a custom meal plan for you. And that way now, if you're not ready to do any training, but you want to start to work on yourself mentally, physically, and spiritually, it all goes into the food and the nutrition. And at the same time, if you want to, do a meal plan, but here's the thing, guys, your gut health is also very, very important. So one of the sponsors of our show, Good Brew, has a special for all of the listeners on the Conscious Man 7. I'm going to extend it to you guys. This prebiotic, I've been taking it for a few weeks and I've seen huge improvements in gut health, rest, recovery in the gym, mental clarity, more energy, all that kind of stuff. So head over to goodbrew.com/CM7. So that's goodbrew, goodbrew.com/CM7. Put CM7 in the checkout if it doesn't come up, and you'll get 10% off your order. Excellent probiotic, and that helps me with leaky gut and gut issues. And one of my clients, she started using it and she's had some really good improvements in gut health. So you head over there and you can start that process as well if you have any of those challenges. And if you're on a spiritual journey, or you would like to start a spiritual journey and you would like some help removing some fears and traumas, I can help you to get some magic mushrooms. So head over to my Instagram at Adriano_246 or my name Todd Cave on Facebook. Send me a message. Let's have a chat and let's help you to get some magic mushrooms, which also help people with PTSD or CPTSD. It helps grow new neurons in the brain, create new neural pathways, and is what you call a brain medicine. And it helps with cognitive ability and all that kind of stuff. So head over there and I'll try to help you out. And if you would like to get to support our podcast, and you don't really have like loads of money or anything like that, you can consider heading over to our store, Todd and Me, on Amazon, and you get yourself a cool shirt. And I think it's fitting today that I have on the shirt, Truth Isn't Learned, Truth is Realized. So head over to the Amazon store, Todd and Me, and get yourself a shirt. We got some cool tank tops, hoodies, shirts, and sweats. And, for a couple of shirts, it helps support the podcast. And also you're part of the Conscious Man 7 crew. And, that way now you can support the podcast and stuff like that. And I just want to say, Jonathon, it's been a real pleasure to talk to today. And just like you, I have a Patreon and locals. So for people that want to get exclusive access to me, some, exclusive content as well, head over to the Conscious Man 7 Patreon or locals. And, for a few bucks a month, you help us with things like editing, research, good guests. And also you get to interact with me, because I get so many messages on Instagram, just like you, Jonathon. Sometimes it's hard to keep up, man. And I miss messages, but I always reply to my messages on locals and Patreon first. And you become part of the Conscious Man 7 crew. And lastly, if you want to get yourself some Orgonite. So Orgonite helps to push back against those nasty EMF waves. It helps you to actually get better sleep at night. And if you've got some pets in your house, you will see that, that actually will, I see it there, man. And you'll actually have the pets in a much better environment. So head over to the sponsor of our show as well, the Kembo at thekembo.com, to get yourself some cool organite pyramids, tower busters, and jewelry. So I have a pendant that I wear with that, and a girl that I was dating, I gave her some earrings, and she doesn't like flying, and she said she felt very calm when she was flying and she had on the earrings. So organite is a fantastic thing, and I've got a pyramid just like the one that you've got there. So thekembo.com, use coupon code CM7 and get 10% off your order. And guys, hit like and subscribe to this show because Jonathon does great work. He's a fantastic host. I have a lot of love and respect for him because he is the guy that pushed me over the edge to actually start the Conscious Man 7. So I always have time for him. And whenever he asks me to come on the show, I will always make time in my schedule to come on. So go over there, show that guy some love, and blow up his comment section and get this podcast in the algorithm trending. And
yeah, dude.
Lastly, Jonathon, I want to say thanks to you personally. It's been too long. It's been over a year. So we need to not make it so long. But I just want to say thanks for having me again. I really enjoyed this conversation and just love talking to you in general because sometimes we talk offline, and it's really cool always to connect with you. You're one of the few people out there actually trying to help people, because a lot of people out there, they're not really legitimate. They're fake. And you know what I mean? They're just looking for clout. But you generally try to help, and I have a lot of time and respect for you. So much love to you. And guys, support this guy in every way that you can.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Todd. And you're always such a great guest, bringing awesome topics and full of knowledge and information. So thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Before we wrap up, whatever today's conversation sparked in you, use it. Growth isn't just mental. It isn't just spiritual. It's physical. And it starts with what you're putting into your body every single day. 1 billion live cultures, 3.5 grams of prebiotic fiber, 0 excuses. Go to goodbrew.com/CM7, use code CM7 at the checkout to get 10% off. Link is in the show notes below. A conscious man doesn't just think about change, he makes it.